Hi, everybody. Jim, we probably should welcome everybody. I guess the board was ran a little over, so sorry for starting the meeting a little late. Jim, did you feel like you wanted to do a roll call since myself and Alex are remote?
Oh, I absolutely feel the need to do a roll call.
Thanks.
Yeah,
I knew you couldn't wait. I knew you couldn't wait.
I couldn't. Okay, let's do a roll call now for the. Okay, Ms. Beal,
Here.
Ms. Gilman,
Here.
Ms. Hayes,
Here from home.
Mr. McCarthy,
Here.
Ms. McGovern,
Yes.
Ms. Parlano.
Here.
Ms. Talarico.
She went home. She's gonna get on.
Not
I
here
think.
yet.
Yeah, she may.
Ms. Tortorella
Here.
and Mr. Weinstein.
Here. I'm assuming we don't need to read any adequate notice, right? Ms. Gilman?
Was it read?
Yeah, we read that.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
we
already
We
done.
did all that?
Yes, we did.
So-
Yes, we did.
So I'll go right to the president's report. So just a quick summary. We sent out the letter to the community. I believe it was not this past Friday, but the Friday before. And I shared some of the statistics with the board in another email. But just to let the public know, we did an email that went out to 4,132 people in our parent community. 2,701 were opened. The number of clicks to the embedded link was 1,394. The number of Facebook posts, it was read by 1,090 people, 302 engaged. I think, Jim, you have one other statistic that Marianne was saying, how many actually looked at the homepage of our website? I think she gave you that number.
She gave it to me today. I didn't have time to look at it, Jeff. I'm sorry. She gave it to me today.
Okay, all right. Well, I think according to Marianne, there were thousands of people who people opened it on our homepage and looked through that. Is that a fair assessment, Marianne? Ms. Conway?
Yes, Jeff, I can get a more exact number.
Great, and I'll make sure I share that with you.
Mhm.
I'll make sure I share that with you. The other part is that I did these last 2 days, I did get confirmation from meetings with our state senator and our assembly people. And
Those tech guys.
Needs to mute.
And we do have a meeting set up with them on the 13th for the assembly people from 12:30 to 1:30 on the 13th, and on the 14th with our state senator from 4:30 to 5:30. I'm going to include two people from the board to join myself and Tina, just to make sure we don't get overcrowded with this. And if you're interested, just send me an email if you're interested in attending, or even if if you might not even be available to attend. So again, it's on the 13th, 12:30 to 1, and on the 14th, 4:30 to 5:30. Just one thing about one thing that did occur is on the on people submitting their comments to at least Senator Gopal's office. I don't know if the assembly people did this. The senator had it looked like a more auto reply that kind of talked about funding that might be available to us. Not funding might be available to us, but funding that we already had available, and that there were things that we should apply for, and that he is working with us. Some things were, at least to us, there were some categories on funds around maintenance and funds around ESSER funds, and it made the email did make it feel like we had excess funds available for staff and programs. And earlier on, myself, Tina, and Jim replied to an email to that effect, saying that these funds are pretty much spoken for other bunch of programs. And so again, we really don't have enough funds for us to maintain what we want, for us to continually grow as as a school in excellence. I did receive a number of emails from people who did get that canned response, and I responded to them, not with the specific terms, but telling them that, the funds that we have are in different categories are made to be spent for certain categories and not just general funds that we can spend on anything. So I did talk to them about that, and I did tell them that we were trying to have meetings with these representatives, but that was not yet clear when we were going to have those. So I probably got maybe about a half a dozen of those that came to me. So I went through that with them. And then just to kind of continue on the president's report, I think that's it for these kind of things. And again, if you're interested and available to go to those meetings, just send me an email if you're available. The other part is we were trying to schedule a speaker that I was working with Shawanda on. Shawanda was kind enough to get somebody from to talk about parliamentary process and procedures. We were originally going to try to have that for the 14th, but it turns out that the individual was not available. So we're going to pick another date. It's probably going to either be the 26th or the 12th when we can do that. It's most likely going to be a 20 or 30 minute discussion around this. And when we do have the firm date, I'll ask you for questions that you want to have answered ahead of time so that we can give those to that individual so they can be prepared on that. The other part is that I am going to work with everybody to schedule an afternoon where we can have a retreat in July. Part of the retreat will be to discuss board goals, further discuss maybe parliamentary procedures, talk about different topics that we might want to discuss. And I'll figure out the form for that with everybody. But I just wanted to give you a heads up that we're going to be trying to schedule some retreat. It won't be related to the meeting date. So it will be another day, and we'll have to figure out a place to do that. So I think that was all I had from the board president's report. Did anybody have any questions for me on any of those topics?
President Weinstein, I also received a reply from the assembly people that was generic, that they asked for funding, but because we're an S2 district, we didn't get it. It didn't really offer much concrete help, and hopefully these meetings will generate a better response or help us to find additional funding for things that we need.
Yeah, okay. Ms. Hayes, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you for the stats on sending out the letter. Do we happen to know from Mr. Gopal and the two Assembly Women's offices, how many people actually reached out to them?
I don't have the final number. I did have one correspondence on a conversation with Senator Gopal, which I believe he had 20 that reached out to him. The Assembly people, I have not had a correspondence with them, so I'm going to just wait until I see them, because I will see them before the next board meeting.
Great, and I know you and I had talked about some of the problems with that email. So will we have it rectified, that there will be a bit.ly maybe the next time, and we won't send part of the email as a JPEG so that nobody could cut and paste? So
on the website now, there is another version that was put up last Friday that allows you to cut and paste all the pages.
But how would somebody get to the web page?
How would they get to the homepage?
Yeah,
It's where it's posted on. It's posted on the.
Yeah, but that's it. Okay, that's passive. Like we have to count on somebody getting.
Well,
there,
I think,
whereas
yeah,
we
I mean, I
sent
think
out
we, I think
4,000
the,
emails.
yeah, I think the lesson was learned on how to post that page better so that we would not have that problem in the future.
Yeah, I understand it wasn't you. I'm just hoping that whoever, pushed the button on this in the future,
Yeah, Jim, if you feel like you wanted to say something about it, you can.
I don't.
Okay.
All
right.
Wait, but I wasn't done. And so then you said Senator Gopal has two meetings set up for you? I mean.
No,
you-
just one meeting. On the 13th, it's the assembly, our assembly people, our assembly representatives on the 13th, and on the 14th is our state senator.
Oh, so 2 women on one day and then the 2 women assemblies. Okay, I got you.
Right.
Is there any reason why we're only allowing 2 though? Because, we can have up to 4, right? Without having a quorum, so.
Just trying to keep it, well, it's just only one extra person, but just trying to keep it manageable for the number of voices in the room. I think we are trying to make this a more of a working session where Tina and Jim can really go through the financing on what's going on with us. So we're trying to make it more of a working session than just a
Mhm.
question and answer session.
Yeah, and I sympathize with that. I would like to go. So, I'd hate to be on the cutting room floor of the 5 people that are going. Wait, 1, 2. What, 2
Yeah,
other
there's gonna
people?
be a lot of people in the rooms, right?
Sure.
So, there's gonna be, but thanks for the.
Yeah. And I think that might have been it for.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything? It's hard for me to see I can't really see if anybody has hands up for anything.
Anybody else have a
Me.
question for President Weinstein? Is that concluding your report, and then you'll come back on for the planning and construction?
Yes,
Okay,
thanks,
So-
thanks, Ms. Gilman.
you're welcome. So we'll move to the superintendent's report. Dr. Stefanowitz.
Why, thank you. So, 'tis the season. Had our senior prom last week, which by all accounts went very well, and congratulations to all of the advisors and the kids. It was a nice day. I unfortunately could not attend this year. I was verboten, so I did not attend. But by all accounts, it was very nice. Just a reminder that the NHS induction ceremony is tomorrow night. It will be outside on the stadium. The weather looks like we're going to be okay. There's going to be a window. So for those of you who've responded that you're coming, we'll see you out there tomorrow night for that. And graduation is 2 weeks from today. And I think I can speak for everyone in the district to say that it cannot get here soon enough. But it's been quite a year. A lot of great things, but certainly, it's been tough. It's been a tough year overall. And so I think, ending the year in a positive way and giving everybody a much deserved break is certainly welcome. I think I've heard from most of you regarding attendance at graduation. I think I just need to hear from one more. But it should be a great day. Right now, the long range weather looks pretty good. We're high about 80. Usually when the 2-week forecast though says it's going to be nice, I worry about that. It's usually when it says it's going to rain and it changes in that time. So hopefully the weather will hold out. But it's just a great, regardless of the weather, it will be a great day and great culmination to a tough year. Remember, these seniors, they've been through a lot, this crew, as was last year's seniors, as was, the senior year before. We're just hopeful and thankful that we could have a prom and a graduation and many of the events. We still do some of the events outside. I think more so, I mean, obviously there's still some health considerations, but I think we discovered last year that it's just some of these events are just really nice to hold outside in the nice weather in the evening, and so I think we're sticking with, creating some new tradition in that regard. So it's kind of nice. As you all know, we just back in May, we sent out the climate surveys to all of our parents, our students and staff, and all of those now have been completed, and we're just starting to get some of the preliminary data from that in. So once we get all that, we will make a formal presentation to the board of probably over the summer. Remember, we're using a lot of that data to help us create the strategic plan as part, not just the meetings, but For example, at the high school, they had 750 student responses. At the middle school, about 700 student responses. And staff, a very good, strong staff response and a pretty strong, I'd say between 25 and 35% parent responses per building, which is actually pretty good. I mean, I know obviously you'd like more, but that's not too bad in terms of the percentage response. So we're just waiting on Ocean Township Elementary School's data to come in. They were the last to finish up. And so we'll be able to present some of that in the summer. But I would say just preliminarily looking at the data, it's overwhelmingly positive. But there are some red flag areas. They literally are red flag areas that come up on the screen that show you. And a lot of it, shockingly, focused around behaviors, which we've talked about ad nauseum over and over again, that have certainly been a challenge this year. So that's one area from all groups, from parents, from staff, from students, that I think came up as consistent as something that we need to continue to work on and improve upon for next year as we continue to reteach everyone in the school community how to be in school full time and how to actually interact in a civil manner.
Right.
So in a respectful manner. So we continue that. And then the last thing I just wanted to mention was I was contacted by OTPD several days ago about a program that it's actually a program from the prosecutor's office, Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office, but it's sort of run locally through OTPD. And it's a program called the Safe Place Program. And what this, I was dismayed to hear that Ocean Township in Monmouth County leads the way in bias incidents and bias crimes in Monmouth County. I was very disheartened to hear that statistic from them. And what the Safe Place Program is it actually designates places within the community where people who believe they are victims of a bias incident or bias crime to go, where then the 911 would be called and they would be given a safe space to be able to contact authorities and get the appropriate supports. Now, obviously, as a school, this would not be something that would be open to the general public. We are certainly not, certainly based on everything we talk about related to school safety and security, do we want members of the general public just coming by and saying, hi, this is my safe place? Really, for schools, it would be really, I think, letting our staff, our students, and anyone within the school community know, as by the way, we do anyway for our students and any of our staff members. This is, in other words, this is stuff we do already within our schools. This is just formally more designating ourselves as a safe place against bias incidents and bias crime. So we did discuss this with the security committee yesterday, and it seemed overwhelmingly positive. And so I just letting the board know that we intend to move in this direction with our schools, as soon as possible, really more so as we get into the summer and certainly next school year. So any questions on any of those things, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions from any board members? Remotely? Okay, how about the school business administrators report? Then are you giving some of Tina's information?
Well, I think we'll just do that when we go through finance.
Okay,
And I will
good.
do my best, I promise.
All right, then we're going to move to the public comment section. Mrs. Conway,
You have to read what it is.
the
There's a note.
all motions are posted on the district website. At this point in the meeting, we will now conduct the first of two public comment sessions. The first session open for public comment on agenda items only, and the second session will be at the end of the meeting and can be on any topic. Would anyone from the public like to comment on any agenda item at this time in the room? Mr. DeLamo?
Yes, how are you? I'm Gino DeLamo, 45.
Oh, would you
please
go to
come
the
in?
mic, Mr. DeLamo? Thank you. And just stating your name and address. Thank you.
Gino DeLamo, 45 with Echo Drive, Ocean. Just have a question on 9.2 curriculum writing hours. Can you give me a definition of what that is?
What curriculum writing hours are?
Yeah.
Yes, so every year when we revise or write new curriculum, our staff members do that. And so we have to, by contract, approve them for to be paid, basically, and so we approve them for that purpose.
Okay, so that's basically just for a pay scale rate of whoever's writing the curriculum.
Correct.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Conway, are there any people online for discussion?
Yes, Vice President Gilman, we have Paul Meyerowitz.
Mr. Mayowitz? Are you able to?
Yes, give me one moment.
Sure.
Please go ahead, Mr. Meyerowitz.
Yes, it was discussed tonight that a letter was sent to parents advising them of the letter relating to the school aid situation. This letter has been discussed for a number of weeks. It was my understanding from the report that it was sent to the parents of the students in the school system. Every resident of Ocean Township pays the same tax rate for the schools. As a taxpayer, I didn't receive such a letter, nor was I aware of such a letter being made public to the entire community. Why is this? And what can we do to assure it doesn't happen again?
Yeah, I can answer that, Ms. Gilman.
Thank you.
Sure. The town council decided not to send out the letter,
Mhm.
and that our only availability to send out the letter was through our own methods. So the town council opted not to send the letter.
But you did reach out to them and ask them to collaborate with us, right?
We met with them, sent them the letter, did some edits, but at the end, they did not want to send the letter out.
Doesn't that then argue that the Board of Education create its own mailing list of interested taxpayers whose children are not in the school system?
That's a good thought. Possibly, I don't know how to do that right now, but it's definitely something that we should probably look at.
Technology wise, it's not that difficult to do.
It also, any citizen, any person can sign up for our web backpack emails.
Yes.
So we could certainly, I think, work to communicate. Paul, we'd be happy to send the instructions if you wanted to post online how to sign up for web backpack to be able, so anyone can get those emails.
It's been a number of years since I utilized or tried to sign up for Webpack, and probably 6 to 7 years ago, I couldn't do it. If I can do it now, I will gladly avail myself of that opportunity.
But thanks for bringing that up, Paul.
Yes, thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to make a comment? Mrs. Conway?
No, there is not, Vice President Gilman.
Thank you very much. Then we'll move to financial management and resource service. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. DeLamo. I didn't see your hand up.
Just on agenda items, the comments.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. So yes, if you have another comment, you can comment in the second public session. Financial management and resource services, Ms. Tortorella.
Irene, is there?
Oh, I'm sorry. We were going to move to the planning and construction. Ms. Tortorella, if you would hold off with that, in the interest of time and the fact that President Weinstein is on a business work session, we're going to move to planning and construction,
Which is me.
which is, I believe, number 10 on our agenda.
I'm sorry, when did we say we were moving to this?
Planning and construction.
I know, when did we decide that we were skipping all these things to go to that? In
We're
exec?
gonna get back to
Coming
those things.
back.
I just have,
Yeah, we're
5
we're
o'clock.
going to cover them, Mrs. Hayes. We're just,
I'm aware.
in the interest of time, going to planning and construction now.
Okay. So the Board of Education
and administration will discuss the administration building and property as it's attached for us as the, I'm sure Dr. Spankowitz is going to speak to this, that the appraisal report came back.
Correct.
So,
So Ms. Truba had attached the report, the appraisal that the board had asked for. I think we were a little surprised that it came back a little bit lower than I think we all were anticipating. However, what they communicated to us was that this was sort of the appraisal of the land as it is. If we wanted to do the more extensive evaluation, which would cost us, I think, an additional $12,000 to bring in the architect. Remember, we talked about
Yes,
this.
she said that.
We first decided to go with sort of the lesser option initially to see what that would get us. If we went with the additional option of hiring architects and others to come in and really more do a what it would be to parcel to different set up different parcels and provide different entrances and exits throughout the property, which would be required if we were putting multiple properties on this site, like, with some of the other locals, that, that may garner a higher appraisal, because obviously if you can come in here and buy this property and subdivide it for housing or whatever it's going to be used for, that might make it more attractive in terms of cost. So I think this is right now just discussion, and wanted you to be able to see what the appraisal was, and within the near future, the board would like to make a decision as to whether we're going to be okay with this, or do we want to take that next step. And but we probably have to do it, before, probably have to decide by next week.
What was the appraisal was $3 million? as
Yeah,
is,
it
right?
was in the 3 million, and the
3.1.
initial appraisal-
3.17.
yeah, and it was two and change the last time we did it. So
Right.
I mean, it certainly went up a lot. I think we were just based on what we're seeing in the rest of the township in terms of real estate, that we were thinking that it was going to be higher than that.
And to do the next level of surveys and investigation, is that, I'm going by my memory here, was that $40,000 estimated?
14,000,
14,000.
Sorry.
14,000 to call in engineers to tell us what we would need to do to sell it by
Yeah.
parcels.
Right.
And of course, the other piece of it is that if we don't do that, then we did also get a report most recently from the fire marshal that our fire escapes here are not sufficient. And we would have to do replacement on all of the fire escapes that we have in the building. So if we do not ultimately sell this property and we stay, it will require more significant.
I had asked Tina, and maybe you can make a note to ask her again, for what Solutions Architect did last time, as far as it would be this much to rehab here, it'll be this much to move, to drop something at, I think that you have a board now that many weren't here throughout many of the discussions. And to say we're gonna make a decision by next week, I understand about the, I know,
The cost.
right, I
We
understand.
don't have to do it by.
I
next week.
understand, but I think that we need to look at what the cost was, even before the rising cost from COVID of supplies and of building or whatever, to say, I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head. But to have the board as it is now, have these documents to be able to say, if it was gonna cost 2.7, I have no idea. If it's gonna cost $40,000 to rehab something, or if it's gonna cost $3 million and we already know that, then I think that the discussion might be a little bit different on whether we go with the $14,000, whatever. If it was that something's gonna cost 500,000, I think everybody needs to see, and keep in mind that that's pre-COVID costs. And before we get Frank to do more work, or this one to do more work, I think we need to have a collective, actual, real discussion between the board of whether or not there's there's some of us on this board that are fully ready to say, I don't care, we're selling, I'm ready to get rid of this building and get rid of this property. And there's many that aren't. And I think we need to have a real discussion about where everybody's views are before we start spending more money in different places.
Yes, Mr. McCarthy.
I don't know if this, the only reason I don't know if this pertains to this topic or not, but I feel like I don't have all the information, so that's why I'm asking this question. What came of the email that we received from the individual who said that they had a person who's interested in leasing this property or
To do the
purchasing?
walkthrough. I had that question myself.
I never actually received emails from people who wanted to do walkthroughs. I mean, I might have seen people said we're interested in talking to somebody about it. And I gave that information to Tina. We
There
never
was
have, we've
email-
never had any.
This
What?
was last
It
week
was an email that came this week
And he said that he wanted to do a walk through the facility.
to
I
possibly
walked through, so,
rent
right,
from the
and I
facility.
sent that to Tina, right?
Okay, so.
So we don't know what
Mr.
came of that?
I
Well, I think at this point, we weren't really entertaining.
Yeah, why would we even
You
entertain
know,
that?
discussions with, from, private realtors or anything like that until we would understand what we're wanting to do.
Especially, Mr. McCarthy, because our fire escapes are not up to code. If we were to lease it to someone, we would be responsible. And to repair the fire escapes, $50,000 was the number that Ms. Truba threw out there. Plus, the building is not compliant with ADA. So we couldn't, in good faith, lease to someone with those things on the table, knowing that there's
We
no.
also need a plan of where we're going.
Well, that's why I believe,
But couldn't we like require, funding to do that? Like maybe if somebody wanted to lease, we're not entertaining
You
opportunities.
need to
then.
repair this building. Well, that's part of the discussion that we need to have, and that is put in the money to repair the building and hold on to it, or take advantage of a real estate market, perhaps call in an engineer to do the additional work and see if it's worth saving, because even if we were to say, get a windfall of 20 million, we still have to find a place for all of us, the maintenance garage. So we have to set up someplace else. It's not free money.
That's not what I'm saying. I apologize. I think I misspoke. What I'm saying is like, if we're not entertaining individuals who want to walk through the property and evaluate it, like maybe there's a potential that there's a person who wants to, maybe there's a revenue source that can come from that. And maybe we would be able to negotiate some sort of way that they would be responsible for updating the property or something like that. Isn't that a possibility with a lease agreement or something like that?
You can put conditions in.
I'm not, I'm.
Because I feel like this is
unfamiliar.
clearly, we all believe that this is a very high valued property, right? And so if there's a way to treat this as a sort of revenue generation, I think
keep the
that,
prop, you're saying like keep the property, but rent it out to somebody else.
rent
to
it,
do
right.
Yeah.
But rent it
Correct.
out.
and I don't know if that was a I honestly have no idea what that possibility was from that interaction. That's the only reason I
Yes,
asked.
Ms.
but-
Spiel.
So in an effort, just so I understand, because Ms. McGovern made a comment, there are some people who are adamant about selling and there are some who are adamant about not. Who is adamant about not selling it? And I liken it to an example of if I were to say to my grandmother, I need you to move out of your home and go to assisted living.
Exactly.
Good luck. So
Exactly.
who is, no matter what is presented, you do not.
I
wanna
don't know
sell this
about no
building.
matter what,
I'm
but
just saying,
yes.
very strong sense of, I just want to know what I'm dealing with, because if two people are interested in selling, the conversation's
yeah.
over, but if it's like, I'm interested, but it sounds like
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken pretty openly about it.
yes.
you are an
I think it was-
adamant, like,
I
we'd
just
have to
don't
move
feel that we should
mountains.
sell the property. I feel
Is there
that we
anyone
need to
else
hang
who
on to
feels the
property.
same way?
Right here.
I'm unsure. I think I need more information. I mean, it does have historic value, but it's aged. If you read that 67-page report, this building has aged way past its prime.
Is
And-
there anyone else who feels like you're gonna have to move mountains to get me to be interested in selling?
I don't know
sort
about
of
move
on the fence
mountains,
of
but
both mountains.
Yeah, I mean, I do think we have to, I do think without all the facts, it's hard to say where everybody can fall here. I mean, at some point, it is an economic decision that we have to make.
No,
As
I
opposed to an
understand that,
emotional
but if,
decision.
like I said, I liken it to if I said to my grandmother, no matter how beautiful it is, no matter what the property, she's not going. So if there are people who have that viewpoint, 90%, I think we're just gonna spin our wheels, continue.
I don't think that's what we have. I think Denise and John have kind of expressed that they are, and I want to say this the right way, John and Denise, just that all things being equal, you're not interested in selling it at this point.
Well, that's
Right.
where I fall. If all things
Right.
are equal, I'm not into selling a property as either. I think that if you were to tell me that, I mean, I've gone through the places that we're going to, the town was gonna give us that didn't happen. And I've gone through, spinning our wheels to try and figure out a way to make this work. I'm not interested in making a way to make this work if it's gonna give us $1 million.
Correct.
Yeah, so if I'm not, you're not gonna get me to a point of selling unless it's going to make a sense, and in a lot of ways, a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So that's where I think that getting the information from Solution, like getting the information that we've already looked at, so that the board that's sitting here, and maybe it's done in committee, but I will tell you, Jeff, I've been the planning and construction, head of planning and construction for 2 years. I've asked for things and I had no idea about these $50,000 for fire escape and other things. So I don't even have, okay, but I don't have, we're in the process of doing this major thing. And as the chair of the committee, I don't have any more information than I did when I was sitting here. So,
Mhm.
there's a lot of things that I think, I don't know if there's things happening that I don't know about. I did not respond to that email. I know you said you forwarded it to Tina.
Yeah. Well,
you
I
know,
responded to that
Right.
person info
Right.
and copied Tina.
Correct. So, there's things that I think, if they want to be done in committee, fine, but as the committee chairperson, then I should probably know about what's being discussed as well.
Sure. Yep. Well, just to give another vector to this. I did have a conversation with Jim and Tina, and one of the things I was concerned about was if we did receive the money, what would be our ability to use those funds, and what would the restrictions be on using those funds, right?
Right.
Right.
And Tina basically told us that, and Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, that there really were going to be no restrictions on the use of those funds. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes.
Right.
But I don't feel that that is the response that we've gotten in the past.
Right.
I would say that there's still more discussion and more
Right.
information to be had.
I think to your point, Amy, which I think is right, is that we need to really spend a lot more detailed time on this. And I think the first pass at somebody telling us that it's worth a little over $3 million doesn't make anybody feel so enamored, right?
Right.
And but if we thought that if we had all the reasons why we should, if we had a good enough perspective on why we should go ahead and get the rest of the property evaluated, then we can make that decision. But right now, we don't have enough to make a decision.
And I
on
know,
what it
yeah.
is, right?
I know Ms. Hayes has her hand up, and Ms. Hayes, if you forgive me, I just want to make one more comment. I do have Mr. Haddon's entire file from the last probably
Yep.
20 years of trying to sell this property. That I believe that if I get my thought is, if we get the information that I asked for from Solutions and all of that stuff, and we can go through in committee that file and the solution stuff, then I think the conversation will be easier to be had as a full board. That then, once the committee meets, then I think we can have a board, put it on the agenda as a board discussion. I just think that it's always being done kind of piecemeal.
Yeah,
and It needs to be
piecemeal.
done, all the people on the committee need to know exactly what's been done in the past, and I have that. And we can, have a little bit of a discussion and then go from there on a full board discussion. And thank you. Forgive me, Ms. Hayes. I appreciate you letting me speak.
I just had my hand up because I can't tell if people can see. So sorry if I was like hovering over you electronically there, Amy.
No, that's okay. Just didn't want you to get missed.
No, yeah. So a couple of comments though that I don't know why this study that we paid for, the taxpayers paid for, is in executive or is in the administration status and isn't public. I think we should make it public. It makes no sense that this comps and this 3.1 and everything is not made publicly right now, so the people standing right there know what we're talking about. I asked before we even did this study to
No.
not have comps in like Jamestown and beyond. And there are 2 comps from Monroe, one from Wall, one from Tinton Falls, and I think one from somewhere else. Like, I don't think our comps, again, are good enough. And perhaps that might be why we have a 3%. As I mentioned before, there are, besides the one email we've gotten, and I know this, there are realtors that potentially have buyers right now. So I would like to know if there is I don't know, an email or some kind of a process. If you're a realtor, that you can say, I'll give you 3 million, I'll give you 10 million, whatever it is. But perhaps if some of us knew what some of the offers are out there, that might change our opinions on what we're willing to take or accept. Because I understand the emotionality of all this, but to me, in the 15 minutes we've been talking about this, none of selling this building has to do with the academics of our students. So if we can get a number here that is a good enough dollar figure in a district that is hurting for money, I think we should entertain that before we do anything.
Well, I
So-
think the problem, I'm not sure about I'm not sure, and Jim, maybe you could tell me if I'm right or wrong on this. The sale of this property is gonna have to go out to be a bid, I would assume.
Yeah, we can't just
Right,
pick a.
right, we just can't, sell. We just can't, so.
I realize, but people
The
can-
problem with the problem with getting realtors to tell us those kind of things
Mhm.
is those things are still hypothetical, right? Then they're very hypothetical. I have a
Not
buyer. who's
necessarily,
done
not if
this.
a realtor says, I have a buyer right now. I mean, there's like 3 buyers across the street doing large scale developments. So why
Yeah.
are we, I don't
And then
understand.
even if we did that, we'd still would probably want to have our own people estimate what we think the value of this is. Right?
Okay, so it sounds like next week, nothing can happen. I mean, like, there's absolutely nothing no deadline.
Well, I think if we were going down the road of what Amy was saying was that that we need to take a closer look at what the costs were for us to go to someplace else, the costs were to rejuvenate this place. And then also
And if
probably
those
add to
someplace
it-
else's are even viable.
Yeah,
Right.
I support all that, but aren't we also, didn't we just approve to do like redo the bathrooms in this building already? I don't even understand.
Yeah,
this.
we added
Yeah.
a bathroom
I-
that we did
What?
ourselves. We added a restroom on the first floor that our folks did. It was pretty minimal cost. to
But
that.
isn't there stuff that hasn't been done yet that we just approved money for in the budget?
I think it was just the bathroom.
It was a
There was
lift.
Bathroom and there was a lift that was gonna just go
Lift,
yeah.
from the auditorium to the. up to
Are
the
we
first floor.
proceeding with that before we even discuss whether or not we're saving this money? I mean, saving this building?
I had
I
the
don't
same thoughts, Alex. Yeah,
That's what we've been saying.
Why are we spending $50 on this building until we know if we're selling it or not? I don't, it just makes, there's so much of this that I don't understand, that why we are doing things
Well,
in
we
the
want to,
term that we are
we
doing.
want to be, if we were to sell this building, right, that process is not going to take 30 days to sell this building. We want to be out of here in 60 days. Right? It would be a much longer process, right?
I
So
disagree, but
what part could you disagree about? Tell me the part.
I think if we got a
Just
good
to, just to
enough
put it,
offer,
just to produce.
we
just to
could get
produce
out of
an
there
R-
in 60
ju-
days.
just
and
to
not
produce
pay
an
for a building
RFP.
that's
But that-
70% full.
Just to
We don't
produce
have
an
anywhere to
RFP.
go,
and to-
Alex. Like, we
just
don't
to
have anywhere to
produce
go.
Entire.
Just to
maintenance.
produce an RFP and to have an RFP response
The
and
maintenance,
to evaluate that would still take long.
Did we not have a study that said the middle school and the high school were 70% full?
yeah, but not for but we don't have anywhere for maintenance to go.
Except
But
for maintenance.
Even that, if we moved into one of the buildings, would require significant renovations that would take us.
And
you know,
class size
take more
differences,
time.
no? If you're saying we're gonna
Well, we
take
have to
up,
move, we would certainly take space that's currently being utilized, but, you know, I mean, it all required renovations that cost, you know, a good amount of money. You know, unless we wanted to just pop down trailer somewhere, but maintenance is still, the maintenance facility is still.
okay, so can we leave this, Mr. Weinstein, that I will talk to Tina early or later she'll be in later this week.
I think the
I think you can
conference is a
email her.
week.
I think
Oh,
you can
it's a week,
email her.
okay.
You can email
I
her.
can email her and try and set up if she can get me some of the information, and I'll get with my committee to set a meeting quickly so that this
Yep.
can get on soon.
Yeah.
And then we'll go from there.
I think
And I
that's a
think
good
you also
idea.
want to make sure you're getting, I think you also want to make sure that she gives you the recent things that she's also come across, right? Fire
Right.
marshal stuff and all that stuff, right?
Mr. McCarthy?
Can you just follow up with her on whatever that email was about and what the response was to that individual?
Sure.
So that we can find out what that discussion is?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And any other offers, Amy, because I know there have been real estate agents.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Alex, I have not heard of any offer
Alec,
or
I have
number.
not,
or-
I have not gotten any offer. The only thing I've gotten, the only thing I've received are people saying, I understand you're about to sell the building. How can I get people to, I have an interested buyer. Can I start getting involved with you on the sale of the building? With the presumption that we've already decided that we were going to sell the building and sell the land.
And
Which has
just
not been
on another
decided.
note, with realtors walking around offering huge sums of money, I personally know people in town that has not been successful. And they may offer this, but then at the end offer that. So I think we need to be prudent. I think we need to go slowly. And I think we need to let the planning and construction committee do their job. So Amy, if you meet with your group and get updated on the latest facts, and then the board can decide if we should spend the $14,000 to get a up-to-date assessment, because the $3 million doesn't sound like enough, given the size of this 11-acre property. And we know that 1 acre is going in town for $1 million. So I think that's the best place to start.
Can anybody answer me though, why this is not public, the appraisal, please?
Yes, because for ever, the way this board is operated is that when things are up for discussion, it's under administrative for board discussion. It's not presented for public view while it's up for board discussion, as the board has to be able to discuss it first. That's the way we've always operated. Unless the board would like to change that as a whole, that's the way it's been done.
So whenever
It's for board discussion purposes first, and their consideration
Well, it's also
first.
contracts.
But
doesn't-
we
it has some
voted
being contracts.
publicly to pay $5,000 for this. That was a vote.
I'm just telling you what has been the traditional method of operation of the board.
I think there's been plenty of examples when we've gotten PDFs that we've paid for from outside services like Solutions Architecture and such, that has been made public. Just seems silly that we're not making an assessment of a building and property that the town owns. And we're keeping. it
Aren't we
listed
even,
as-
are we even hypothetical, we're showing our cards. I don't know that we want, at this stage, we want potential buyers to know all of this detailed information. I think somebody just commented that in the chat.
Yes, I just read
Yeah.
that comment from Mr. Marwitz. And we are still in the preliminary stages and not ready to share that information yet. And we're having this discussion in public.
And for years,
So-
we've had this discussion. This discussion has happened most times in exec.
I'm not trying to be a nitpicker, but I just don't want there to be an opportunity for a member of the public to comment like that again, because I think that gives them an unfair advantage on the rest of the public. So,
Absolutely. So we'll save that comment for the open
no
session. at
offense to
the end.
Mr. Mayorowitz, who I appreciate all of his involvement greatly.
Thank you, Mrs. McCarthy. Are there any
I
other
have a
comments? Yes,
For-
Ms. Portobello.
Those of us on the board, or those of you on the board that are at this stage opposed to selling, are you open to renting, leasing the space and moving the physical contents and the people elsewhere, but just retaining the property?
Yes.
Yeah, I am as well. I'm more concerned about the land. Personally, right?
Yes, and I would agree.
As opposed-
once we
sell, we
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ms. McGovern, for following up on this.
Sure.
And we'll make sure we get some real detail around this and spend more concerted time thinking through this.
And I would encourage all board members, I know it's a long document, but that 67-page document that is available to us has a lot of very important information, up-to-date information, including photos, including comps of other tracts of land that have sold that are similar to ours. And I think that it would provide a lot of information to the questions that we're asking. Anything else, President Weinstein, that you would like to add to that?
No.
Anyone else on the board?
Thanks, Ms. Gilman. Thanks, everybody.
You're welcome, and thank you for
I'm
your,
gonna be signing off.
okay.
See
Good
you all
luck.
later. Have a good rest of the night.
Bye-bye.
I hope it's not too late.
No, we're moving right along.
You're
So
looking at
we'll
yours.
return to financial management and resource services, Ms. Tortorella.
Thank you, Ms. Gilman. We have 13 items for discussion this evening. 7.1, Board of Ed Administration will discuss a donation from the Cisco Systems Matching Gifts Program in partnership with former Board of Ed member John Stupi, a Cisco employee, in the amount of $1,050.65. The funds will be used by our Applied Technology Department to build an esports lab at the high school as per the attached. 7.2, Board of Ed and Administration will discuss awarding contracts to the following professional legal services for the 2022-23 school year as listed below. 7.3, excuse me, Board of Ed and Administration will discuss the award of contracts to the following for the 2022-23 school year per the below. 7.4, Board of Ed and Administration will discuss the award of contracts to the following doctors for the 2022-23 school year per the below. 7.5, Board of Ed and Administration will discuss the 2-year shared services agreement between the Township of Ocean Board of Ed, Shore Regional Board of Ed, and Monmouth Regional Board of Ed on a cooperative sports program for ice hockey within NJSIAA guidelines for the 22-23 and 23-24 winter ice hockey seasons as per the attached application and memo. 7.6, Board of Ed and Administration will discuss the writing off of AR items. Total write-off is $24,294.24 of receivables owed to the district as per the attached list. 7.7, Board of Ed and Administration will discuss writing off outstanding checks. Total write-off, that should be, is $13,165.
No, that's a write-on.
It's a write-off.
Sorry,
Right
right on.
Right on, brother.
Per the attached list. 7.8, Board of Ed and Administration will discuss the renewal of the New Jersey Shared Insurance Services, including workers' comp, property and liability coverage with the New Jersey School Insurance Group for a 1-year premium, July 1, 22 to June 30, 23, for a total amount of $1,160,910. This includes all lines of coverage as per the attached and highlighted below. 7.9, Board of Ed and Administration will discuss the requisitioning of taxes from the Township of Ocean in the total amount of $71,048,817 for the 22-23 school year as per the attached breakdown. 7.10, Board of Ed and Administration will discuss the following FM and RS item. Transfer unexpected appropriations and or excess revenue to capital reserve and to establish a maintenance reserve account as per the below. I don't need to read all this whole thing, right?
Right,
This resolution, okay.
the whereas. right.
7.11, Board of Ed and Administration will discuss the Transportation Operations Assessment as submitted by Transpar. Assessment is attached. 7.12, Board of Ed and Administration will discuss an agreement with ESS Support Services LLC to provide classroom and bus aids for special education programs and transportation on an as-needed basis during the 22-23 school year. ESS was the sole bidder for substitute staffing services. The agreement and year-over-year bill rate comparison are also attached. And last, 7.13, Board of Ed and Administration will discuss an agreement with Advancing Opportunities for Assistive Technology Services for students with special needs for the period of July 1, 22 to June 30, 23 school year in accordance with the attached contract. Dr. Stefanowitz.
Thank you. I will provide Best I can on most of these I have got. So 7.1, as you know, one of the things that we've been working toward and working on is the idea of developing esports programs within the district. And we weren't unfortunately able to put them in the budget this year, but we have been actively seeking, Mr. Trankina, supervisor, has been actively seeking business support. And I know they reached out to Cisco, with whom we have relationships with. Mr. Stupi, our former board member, has been there. So this is an initial donation that's part of a match program. So this is an ongoing process. This isn't where it stops, hopefully.
Good.
But this is in some initial grant that we're getting to hopefully get things up and underway. We need a little bit more to get it going. Another 35 grand, but we're working on it. So I appreciate and the other thing that Cisco has is that they have, they sort of have like a esports guru that works there that is sort of acting as a mentor and advisor to this process for us. So I think this is going to really be very fruitful and beneficial in time, but hopefully not that much time. But just wanted to make the board aware that, well, one, you'll have to approve the award, but letting you know that these efforts are going on, and that's really been very positive. So these
Does that
next,
mean, I'm sorry, do we get a second one since it's a matching gift? Is that what you're saying?
what I'm saying, it's my understanding that as we go out and get other awards from other businesses, Cisco will match those. So I think this is an initial award by them. And then as we get additional awards, they will match those awards.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So these next several, so we are a little behind with some of our professional services RFPs. And that was somewhat intentional because of pandemic. During the time of the pandemic, we didn't feel like necessarily going out to RFP for our school physicians. Having that consistency with our school physicians was important. We felt we during negotiations, for example, we didn't think that going out to RFP for our attorney was a good idea. So some of these things we've put on hold, and now we're getting to the point. Now, we're not at an RFP for these yet, but we're wanting to say, I think within next school year, we are going to need to go out to RFP for our physicians, for our attorneys, all of those things. So we are recommending in 7.2, the reapproval of our current attorneys. They are flat, the rates are flat, with the idea that probably come January, we're going to need to go out to RFP for all of these. And for the board to probably interview, attorneys to decide, are we staying with where we are? Are we moving in a different direction? Same thing with the 7.3, same thing with 7.4. And once again, these are, I know 7.4 are all flat with their rates. So those are 7.2 to 7.4. 7.5, just our agreement, our shared services that we have for ice hockey with Monmouth Regional and Shore Regional. I think 6 and 7 seem, I think, pretty self-explanatory. The 7.8 is something that goes with, we need to have these coverages in place for 22-23. So, next week we will definitely be looking for this. Well, we're looking for approval on all these, but this is important that we have this going for our workers' comp and other liability insurances. Requisition of taxes. This is the
Ouch.
we developed the budget. Now we got to get the money. So this is just the outline of how that comes to us throughout the course of the year. Also, transfers of the unexpected. These are typical June resolutions that we would do each year. 11, I would probably, once again, Ms. Truba wanted to have, we got the transportation report. Ms. Truba wanted you to have that. I think, obviously we're going to need further conversation about that. And, I would really recommend we wait for Ms. Truba to return before we really get in depth with it, but she certainly wanted you to have it start to digest, some of the things that are in there.
Yeah, some of the things that are in the Transpar report were a reach,
well-
a brand new transportation building, a brand new hub. These are things that are kind of out of our
Well, we
reach,
get
but
$75 million from this property, we can do all that.
Yeah.
That would be outstanding.
75 million.
Sure.
But yeah, that needs further discussion and
Right.
examination.
ESS is primarily we use for bus aids, for special needs services. We do that now. That's where this is where we get some of our aids, contracted aids, when we have the need. Obviously, we work to have our folks do it first.
Good.
When we have the need, we bring in those folks and we contract with them. We've had this contract. This is not a new contract. This is something we do. And then 7.13. So I appreciate easy questions on any of these items.
Does anyone have a question? Ms. Tortorella?
Okay, I have two unrelated questions. 7.7, I just want to be clear. I remember this from last year. These are checks that we've written to people that they didn't cash.
7.7, yes. So these would be ones correct that we've yes, I believe that these are checks that we've written. No, you're saying no. These are.
Well, some of them were for busing. He's right about
Forgive me.
that. Money that we've
7.7, you're
given.
talking about the write-offs?
No.
Oh, 7.7.
The
I thought you were talking about, the
Yeah, the
right
write-on.
ons. We're talking about the right
Oh, the
on.
right on.
Oh, I thought you were talking about write-offs. I thought you were in 7.
No, because it's.
Oh, I was in
people. It's a
7.
list
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
people.
Right,
yeah.
people that we have given a busing allowance to that have not used it.
That we keep saying
Correct.
there's
A
names.
lot of these,
People.
many of these come from aid and lieu.
Yeah.
Exactly. Direct transportation
Okay.
that, right, didn't.
And then 7.13, advancing opportunities. We've used them in the past.
That's not an easy question for me. I'm sorry. I don't know the answer to that. We will, obviously I'll find out.
Yeah, I'd like more information on them.
Okay.
I have a bit of professional knowledge with them,
Okay.
and
Here.
I'm not, sorry, I asked for more information on advancing opportunities.
If you want to, if you want to,
Are you
Sure,
familiar
we
with
can
them,
do
Ms. Tortorella?
okay, so
Yeah, I just like to know what context we've used them before in the past
Okay.
and what we,
we'll find out for next
Yeah.
week.
And how much are
Thank
we
you.
expecting?
Yeah.
yeah.
But I have a question.
Ms. Hayes? Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Talarico?
I'm sorry. The ESS for 7.12, is that affiliated with Effective School Solutions or is that a separate business?
No, that is ESS, the Effective School Solutions. Once again, this is, we use them for aids, for when we cannot find one of our own instructional assistants who can do a bus run or something to that effect. We have this in place now. This is just a reapproval for next year for the same service that we currently have.
Wait, I don't know.
Are you finished, Ms. Talarico? Are you finished, Ms. Talarico?
Oh, I just have a follow-up question. How long have they been doing this service?
It's typically, mission one is all, we approve mission one aids. It's typically what we've done. That's how they're often known by, is the mission one aids. I mean, we've had them for years. I'd have to go back and look exactly, but we've had it for a lot of years.
I just want to make sure you're saying this ESS support services for school bus and other special ed aides is the same company that is teaching teachers and parents about SEL that we are paying.
I believe so,
$50,000.
unless I
didn't-
apologize if I'm incorrect, but I believe so, but if I'm incorrect, I will certainly,
You're saying you believe so. Okay.
I believe so, but I will confirm
Let's
that.
Google ESS.
Do you know if they have de-escalation and restraint training from certified instructors, Dr. Stefanowitz?
The ESS?
Yep.
You mean the aids? Or do you mean ESS that they provided?
If
In
the
general.
aides that they are providing for us are getting de-escalation and restraint training?
It's my understanding they do, but we can certainly double check that.
It doesn't look like they're the same company.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I can't imagine that they're the same company because.
My
Right,
apologies.
yeah,
As
it's,
opposed
that's a
to
different
support
company.
services.
It's
I
not,
think it's Effective School Solutions.
Yes.
That's what I'm looking up.
not ESS, it's
Yeah.
Effective
I think
Schools.
they're two.
So they're
different
two, it
companies.
seems like they're two
different.
different companies. We'll find
Right.
out.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Correct. Yes, that's
coming to
ESS.
mind.
in
You
your
have another
brain.
question, Ms. Hayes?
Not at the moment.
Okay, then we're going to move to instruction, education, and student activities. There are 6 items under that.
Wait,
You're much more confident about these answers. I can tell you that.
I'm sorry, I have a quick question. Yes. Going back to 7.3, I know you said we're gonna do, the goal is to, take the physicians or the attorneys, finish the year and hopefully in January do RFPs.
Yeah.
I believe every year I do ask for a rundown of what our school physicians have done for the money. Is it possible to request that? How many times they were called by the nurse? How many times they did physical stuff like that? Before January?
Before January?
Well, if you say we're redoing an RFP in January,
Sure. I mean, if that's something the board would like to see at that point, absolutely. Sure.
or I could Oprah it as
So
well.
you're asking,
No, I
Alex,
think-
you want to know how much we're using to see if we're getting our money's worth? Is that what you're
Yes.
asking?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've certainly done those in the past. I think we've shown that what we use our physicians extensively for physicals, consultations, many things. I think we've certainly determined, we don't use them any less than if anything, we've used them more in the last couple of years. So, I mean, I don't think it's much different than what we've provided in the past, but certainly when we go out to do an RFP, that's all information that we would take into consideration, certainly, as to, because that's partly how we construct the RFP, to let them know what their
And the cost,
responsibilities
yeah.
would be and what the expectations would be, so they would know what they would want to charge us.
I realize, yeah, and we reduced the rate this past year. So I'm just curious what their services in reflection to a rate reduction have panned out to be. All right, thank you.
Thank you. 8.1 internship, move to approve the request of employees, college, university students to fulfill their program requirements in accordance with the attached memorandum dated June 2nd, 2022. 8.2, move to approve out-of-district private tuition for the 2021-2022 ASY program and for the 2022-2023 school year in accordance with the attached memorandum dated May 31st, 2022. 8.3, move to submit the 2022-2023 application for the Perkins Secondary Consolidated Grant. The grant award for the 2022-2023 school year is $16,595 to continue to support the CTE programs of study. 8.4, move to approve the attached memorandum dated June 2nd, 2022, staff professional development activities in accordance with District Policy 6471 and NJAC 6A:23A-7. The attendance at said activities is fiscally prudent and will promote the delivery of instruction and/or will further the efficient operation of the district. Reimbursement for travel and related expenses shall be according to the Department of the Treasury guidelines in NJOMB Circular 06-02 and A-87. 8.5 is our update from the Wellness Committee. And Ms. McGovern, and then I'll come back to you. 8.6, the Board of Education and Administration will discuss the Township of Ocean Intermediate School's current red and white schedule as per the attachment below. Would you like to discuss that first?
I'll second.
Dr.
if that's
Stefankiewicz, or
okay.
the wellness?
Well, I'll second 8.1 to 8. Whatever it was.
8.1 to
4.
8.4.
I will second.
Well, do you want to vote on those and then?
Well, no,
can go back to
we
discussion.
usually
PD.
second and then talk about. and then
Well, that's what I
discussion.
mean.
Yeah.
Do you want to do the vote first on those?
I
And Amy second?
did.
Okay.
First, you have to see if there's any discussion on them.
Yeah.
Any questions? I'm going to see if.
Any questions on
Um,
8.1 to 8.4? PD? No.
Wait,
The grant?
Yeah, I did want to ask about the grant. So
Yeah.
this is a grant that we can apply to because we have the program in place. Is this something that?
Perkins is a federal program,
Mhm.
grant program for career and technical education. So
Mhm.
because we have approved programs of study in
We are allowed to.
CTE, that's for career and technical
Right,
education,
right.
then we become eligible for these funds. If we did not have those programs, we would not be eligible to. apply
So
for
this
those
is the
funds.
first year we
No,
are.
we've now gotten it for several years.
Oh, we
And you
have,
become
okay.
eligible once you start to have students as participants and completers
Okay.
in the program.
Even though we had the previous grant that was, awarded to us to start it.
Right,
start it
that
off,
was
we were
to start
still
a
allowed
5-year
to.
grant.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this is not nearly this
Of
amount of money,
course.
but I mean, it does help us pay for a number of
Yeah.
things that we can put in there. It's, it's based on the size of number of students that you have in the
Okay.
program. So for us and the size of our school, it's not gonna, I mean, it's actually, if I believe, it used to be $15,000. If you're below $15,000, you may be eligible for it, but if it's under $15,000, you don't get it. So
Okay, all right.
we squeak it, we just squeak it through.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's good.
Yeah. All right, so, yeah, and it's, it's helpful. It's helpful to keep,
Mhm.
pay some of the costs of the programs. Okay. We want to take a vote on?
We'll take
on
a vote,
those? So
yes.
One for 4?
Right, up to 8.1 to 8.4.
Okay, Ms. Beal,
Yes.
Ms. Gilman,
Yes,
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. McGovern,
Yes.
Ms. Parlonis.
Yes.
Ms. Talarico,
Yes.
Mr. Torello.
Yes.
And Mr. Weinstein is not here. Okay. All right, so with 8 point, what do you want to do?
Six.
Well,
I
do
do
you
wanna
want
do
to
the
do
wellness
8.6?
Doesn't
why don't you
matter.
do the wellness first and then we'll talk
Okay.
about the red, white schedule.
I'll go. Okay, I'll do
Okay,
wellness.
Okay. you-
All right. So our wellness, we had our last wellness committee meeting for the year. I think it has been a very successful year. So we started with the building counselors who I feel like the common theme was the weather has broken. We're able to be outside. There's some really exciting, as Dr. Svanquist spoke to earlier, yearly things happening that are making our kids very happy and our staff very happy. One of the things that was talked about extensively was the track meet and how wonderful the track meet was that they brought back, I guess.
Fourth grade.
Yeah, the fourth grade track meet for all the elementary schools to be at the high school, how helpful the high school students were. And I think there's a sense, I seem to see that there's a sense of trying to do more things in district where it brings more kids together to do positive things. So that was very good. One of the things that we talked about a lot, of course, this was after, unfortunately, the Texas shooting. And so we did talk about drills. Unfortunately, that week, week after, Wayside had to do, they had a lockdown, you have to do a certain amount of each kind of drill every year. So Mrs. McHugh spoke to the fact that she went through the building before to talk to everybody, that obviously the kids knew it was coming, so that they were all, which they do usually, and that she went through after as well to make sure that there were no kids that were in distress after, or staff members for that matter, that were in distress after the drill. And it seemed to be okay. Everybody seemed to be handling it well. So there was a lot of talk about, I remember we talked about this, I talked about this a while ago, was the OTES trusted adult system that they did a binder, and how it was very helpful. However, they would like to use it a little bit more. I guess they didn't use it as, it was a new process. So it's a continuing process. But that was one thing that they touched on. Our SEL coach was talking a lot about, there's PSA videos that Mike Houston helped her with kids from, different age groups at TOIS giving lessons. They're also going in at TOIS, started with Alyssa. I can't remember who, Alyssa's that works at TOIS, going into R&R, and the SAC over at TOIS, going into the R&R over there and kind of having a little bit of a lesson as well during R&R time, so that there's SEL specifically in, everybody knows R&R, right? Okay, so that's one of the things that they're doing. The equity coach, Ms. Connolly, talked about the gender support plan with the central office, more information to come on that. Some of the things that they're doing to celebrate Pride Month and Juneteenth. She had contributed to the PD Day, providing PD for K-4 during the PD day. She also was talking about the CJCEE group projects that we have, Central Jersey.
Consortium for Excellence in Equity.
Thank you. I know, I knew you would know that.
That's an acronym I know.
Happened to be, part of that for a while. But we actually had a project that was submitted this year. We've done projects in the past that haven't always been submitted. This one was submitted. So that was another thing that they were very excited about, because it seems the program was successful. Not that it hasn't been successful in past, but they really had a group of kids that were very interested, that did a very good job and put it in.
And
Dr. Spank,
that program is tomorrow
Oh, okay.
with Monmouth University, and the videos they created, maybe when we get to the summer, we can show the board. They're short. so
Yeah, we
could
did talk,
show
we
the
did talk
board.
about bringing
Yeah.
some of these videos, some of these things that Mike Houston has worked on with Miss Conti and Miss Connolly to the board at a later date.
Yep.
Everybody's excited about the approval for the SAC counselors for this summer. One of our people on our committee is actually did it last year, and she's awesome. And she's doing it again, I believe, yes. So it's good that she kind of hears it all throughout the year too, so she knows our philosophies and everything else, and she's brought some great things this year. We did talk about making our meetings quarterly next year, because it seems that when we made them monthly, that, they would say, oh, in 2 weeks, we're doing this. And then it was like 2 weeks ago, we did that, it was a lot of repetition, and so we've talked about moving them to quarterly. So Dr. Spankowitz and Anthony are going to discuss dates and get them to the group over the summer. We talked that our first meeting will probably be in October, because as we know, September is much of a wash for everybody at the schools. Dr. Spankowitz talked about the surveys, and that, as he spoke with us about, he talked about the last ESS program that went out today. I'm sure everybody saw, that's how to support your children's mental health over the summer. That's on Monday. As I said, we talked about Texas. I also had brought up at the end of the meeting, we had talked a little bit about the subject of suicide, and how I feel, I'm having a lot of that discussion with my own son, because it seems, while a lot of times we're in the trenches with our kids that we know are having some problems, sometimes our high achieving students and our athletes, which seems to be, there's been a lot of college athlete suicides this year, and high achieving, kids that we need to somehow maybe reach out. I said, maybe the coaches can, just make sure that their teams know, where to go and stuff like that. I think that it's something that scares me tremendously. And, a lot of people on the call were, agreed, and that there's some things. Miss Todd had talked about her peer leaders at her high school, and how she has people, she kind of has a little thing in place. So that was one of the other things. I had brought it up as somebody not knowing what we do, and we do things, but I just wanted to express as a board member / parent that it's one of the areas that does concern me. So we talked about that, and then there's resources as well, as always. So I think it was a very positive meeting at the last, they all have been. And I think we've gotten into, I feel like we've gotten into a good groove, the committee on some things, and there's been a lot of, it's nice having, as we spoke, Miss Rabone and Miss Todd, and then we have parents on there as well. Some of the parents weren't on this week, but have been on, but I'm sure Dr. Spankowitz or Kristen or Mr. DePasquale will make sure, whoever wants, Mr. Rabone already said, I'm willing to do it again next year. I would love to be a part of it. Yeah, so we'll, make sure that we still have the same group of people, but it was a positive experience. So
Yeah, it's great having some of those folks from the other schools, because it makes us realize, that the problems we see are problems that they see as well. We're not alone, and we can share resources, we can share information, and we can act as each other's therapists, sometimes sounding board. Yeah, because, it's obviously, as we've said many times, it's been a very difficult year. It's been rewarding in many regards, but it's also been very difficult in many others. And both students and adults alike, have really need to take care. And, so I think a lot of good things have come out of these meetings, a lot of good discussions. So.
Ms. McGovern, I have a question.
Sure.
You said that you were moving to quarterly meetings next year. Can you call emergency
we said
meetings?
that.
Should you have to, God forbid,
Yeah,
something
if there's-
else
if something
happens or
occurs, we can
something
absolutely do that.
occurs?
Yeah, and that was brought up. I
Yeah,
mean, that
we
was
talked
said
about
that we would have specific dates, but if something's happening, that we would definitely
as
meet.
needed.
Can always mean.
And
Thank you.
quarter, when we say quarterly, not just, quarterly during the school year. So really, that's
So we need
every
4
2 months,
4 times a year.
so it will be,
Okay.
it won't be in the summer. So it'll really just be every other month, almost, which is basically what we've done
What you're
this year.
doing now.
Which is also more than most other district committees. meet.
Absolutely.
Usually it's 2 a year, so.
I can't hear you.
He said that's more than
That's
what
right.
most committees meet.
Yeah, most of our district committees meet twice a year, so this meeting's still 4 times a year, still more than what we typically meet.
Thank you, Ms. McGovern. That was a very thorough report.
Oh, thank you.
Very,
Very fair.
very good. So intermediate school, red and white schedule.
Yes, very exciting. So just
Red
making the
light.
board aware that the intermediate school staff, along with the administration, work together to make a change. I think in the whole scheme of things, it's a minor change, but it's I think a good change and one that will impact students positively and I think impact instruction positively. Is that Marianne? Can you pull that up? That I think there's a attachment.
Mhm.
I think
Was.
the visual is makes it easier to kind of understand.
It's an admin comment. It's an admin.
It
I
is.
thought we don't show
hidden
admin
admin.
stuff. I thought we don't show admin stuff.
It's an admin
It's an
content.
admin. Dr.
Okay, we can't pull
Patel.
it. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Well, as board members, you'll take a look at it, but if we had hard copies, you'd have it, but my fault. I thought you'd be able to see it. My fault. All right. So basically right now then, try to visualize with me, if you will. The way the middle school schedule is right now, that there's a red day and a white day, and on a red day, all students have basically eight classes, right, over the course of a year. On a red day, they have 4 of them. On a white day, they have 4 of them. So over the course of 2 days, you see all of your 8 classes, okay? And initially, when the original schedule was put out, it was an every other day block, basically. So it was what's called an alternating day block. So say on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, red, white, red, right? And then the following week would be white, red, white. So over the course of 2 weeks, you would see everybody the same amount of time, right? Last school year, I think during the pandemic, what they did, because of Wednesdays, it was all remote Wednesdays, if you remember, for a long time, and then we eventually came back and all that. They put in place that instead of it being every other day alternating, to have each day be consistent. So have every Monday be a red day, have every Tuesday be a white day. Then they would start to alternate Wednesday, or alternate red and white by Wednesday. So in other words, one, and forgive me, I know the visual would be easier, would be, so say like this week, it would be Wednesday would be a red day, but then the next week, the Wednesday would be a white day. And then Thursday would be red and Friday would be white. So they were consistent Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Wednesday was an alternating red and white schedule. What they'd like to do for next year is basically, instead of it being a block schedule on Wednesday, have it be a more traditional schedule, and every class, all 8 classes would meet on Wednesday. So Monday would be a red day, Tuesday would be a white day, Wednesday would be a pink day, combination of red and white, you see, would be a pink day, because they would see all of their classes for a 40-minute period of time, give or take. And then Thursday would be a red day, Friday would be a white day.
In the regular blocks.
In the regular blocks in those days, right? And what that does, and you see some of the advantages to that, it enables the teachers to see all of their students the same amount of time each week. It enables teachers to, all classes will have back-to-back days at some point, either Tuesday to Wednesday or Wednesday to Thursday, right? And so there's some advantages to that, which I think especially for some of the staff members who felt that every other day made it a little choppy, to help in that regard. The other thing, though, that will happen at the intermediate school is, because of scheduling, because of sort of lowering and the enrollment going down is that one of the lunch, it typically would have grade level lunches. So fifth grade would eat, sixth grade would eat, seventh grade would eat, eighth grade would eat. Next year, seventh grade will be a split lunch with sixth and eighth grade. So fifth grade will eat by themselves. Sixth grade will eat by themselves, or sixth grade will eat together with some seventh graders. And eighth grade will eat together with some seventh graders. So the
Just on
seventh-
Wednesdays or on
No,
every
no,
day?
no. On every day. Yeah, and that's just because of scheduling to make this all work. That has to happen. And I think we didn't, sorry, seventh grade, I think we didn't want to kind of split up the eighth grade and I mean, for seventh grade, it'll be more similar to the high school schedule, to the high school lunch. They don't eat by grade level in high school.
Right, they make-
So, I think this will be a nice change. I think once again, this was generated by staff in conjunction with the administration to come up with some ways. And we always said from the very beginning, when we went to the new schedule there several years ago, that, we would always evaluate and tweak as necessary. And I think because of the pandemic, by how the Wednesdays played out, they saw that kind of worked nicely, and to be able to see all your classes on the Wednesday was a good thing. So it's, I'm not going to use the word hybrid schedule because we don't use that word anymore, but it's sort of like that, right, in a way. So just making the board aware, and obviously this will be communicated out. There's Mr. Amato is going to be meeting with the PTAs. There's a PTA meeting next week, so we'll be talking about it. And also the fifth grade and sixth grade information sessions are coming up, I think, also next week. Or tomorrow. So they'll be discussing some of this with them as well. It doesn't impact fifth and sixth grade as much other than really sixth grade lunch, but not really, because they're still all eating together. Okay. So questions on that at all?
Anybody have a question on that? Ms. Hayes?
I'm assuming we have considered just getting rid of the block system altogether, correct? We've considered, right?
Not really. I think we absolutely value longer periods beyond 40 minutes to facilitate the type of instruction and teaching and learning. We absolutely believe that 40, that's better to be done in class periods that are longer than 40 minutes. I think, however, there's certainly been some feedback that 80 minutes might also be too long, right? Particularly for younger kids. So the staff has worked together to work on some things that they think will sort of maintain the ability to be beyond 40 minutes, but then also bring in some shorter periods to do other kinds of, say, direct instruction, some other types of things. But no, we are not, we're not contemplating getting rid of. I mean, there's many types of block schedules, and we're not really looking to abandon block schedule in any way.
I suppose, I mean, when I mean block schedule, I mean the 85 minutes. Because I'm sure you're not immune to, some complaints from fifth and sixth graders that's parents, that's just.
Well, remember, fifth grade is a little bit different. Fifth grade is not on that same schedule. That's primarily a schedule for sixth through eighth grade. Fifth grade is, remember, they still see each other. They still only have the two teachers, and that's not changing.
Okay.
Any other questions, concerns? Well, thank you, Dr. Spankwitz, and we're going to move to personnel. Ms.
Yes, I'd
Parlamas?
like to make a motion to move items 9.1 through 9.22. Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, give it to Amy.
Dr. Stefankowitz.
Okay. Got personnel. 9.1. Well, no, we can't discuss.
No.
9.1 through, what was the last one?
22.
22.
9.22.
Okay. Ms. Beal,
Yes.
Ms. Gilman,
Yes to all, but 9.22, recuse myself from Jenna Siriani.
okay. And recuse, sorry, got to write this down, from 9, which one, I'm sorry? Recuse from
9.22,
9.22,
yeah, it goes
Okay.
to 9.24.
got it, okay. Some of those are discussion, right?
Two of them.
Or no? okay.
Yes.
Yep, bottom
One.
two.
Okay. Ms. Hayes,
9.24, no.
We're
It's a discussion.
That's a
we're
discussion.
discussing though.
So what number are we at? 9 through what?
9.22.
Up to 22.
Yes.
I'm going to say yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. McGovern,
Yes.
Ms. Palamas?
Yes.
Ms. Talarico,
Yes.
Mr. Torello?
Yes.
No, Mr. Weinstein. Motion passes. I'm sorry, who was the second on personnel, please? Amy? You are the second.
Yeah, you're the
person
second
tonight.
forever.
Yeah.
Okay, motions pass.
Motions pass. Okay, so 9.23 and 9.24.
Before, I'm sorry, before we do that, may I just say one thing?
Yes.
So I'd like to congratulate some folks who are with us virtually tonight that you just approved as our new supervisors. So Mr. Cologne, Greg Cologne, is on the line here. Mr. Cologne, longtime person, longtime teacher with us, coordinator of Spartan Schools, wearer of many hats, I think we could all agree. Will be our new supervisor of math and business. So congratulations to Mr. Cologne. And also our new supervisor of social studies and bilingual ESL, Maria Cecilia Via Chave is also on the line. So congratulations to Cecilia. She goes by Cecilia and she hung in for the last hour and a half, a couple hours. So welcome, and we look forward to you, Mr. Cologne, you serving in a new capacity, and Cecilia serving in a new capacity with us as supervisor. So congratulations to those two individuals.
That was nice, yes.
Very nice.
Okay. So let's go to
9.23.
923. All right. Okay, so for 923, we've done this the last couple of years, and just the way things have played out with our 12-month employees. This includes administrators and secretaries. The demands of the positions have made it very difficult for people to be able to take all of their vacation time, and they're actually limited. Administrators are actually limited by contract of how many days they can take during the school year. And the summers have been not so have been pretty busy as well. And so this is what we're asking is, and the board has done this the last 2 years, you were kind enough to extend, normally by June 30th, whatever is left beyond what the allotment would be, they would lose those days. And we're asking that the board just extend that through August 19th this year, up to 5 days, up to only 5 days, not the full amount, to be able to use those days beyond that time. So questions on that at all? We have done this the last 2 years. This year, the only difference is the last 2 years, we've done it through July 31st. And this year, I'm just extending that a few weeks because there's people with a good amount of days
So we're not extending for them to take all of their days. You're saying we're extending and giving them an opportunity to take 5 of their
Right.
days. if
So,
they're-
the administrators and secretaries might be a little bit different, but in no terms of number of days they have. But basically, there's only so many days that can be carried over from year to year. And so if you have more than that, they would just be gone as of June, after June 30th. And what this does, honestly, is it will enable what you're going to have if we don't do this is probably not a soul here from June 22nd to June 30th, because everybody will just need to try to take as many days as they possibly can. And there's a lot of work that still needs to get done in that time, and people will just lose a lot of days. So by extending this, 6-7 week period, it enables them, and only up to 5 days. So if somebody right now has 10 days left to take, they could only carry an additional 5. If they would either have to take those 5 or they would lose those 5. And every year people wind up losing some days. So I think it's important that these folks, take their time and take their days and recharge as best they can over the time. So it just extends the time a little bit. Now, as of August 19th, whatever they didn't use from that allotment they carried will be gone.
Disappears, right. Ms.
So,
Tortorella?
Jim, shouldn't we be discussing this under in exec, being that it's personnel, but it's a discussion?
Yes,
Okay.
we already discussed it, didn't we?
But
I don't know.
I'm just.
You guys asked me to discuss it. I'm discussing it
Yeah,
now.
I'm
You're
just-
right. Stop
okay,
me.
All right.
Yes. we
I didn't
already
want to
discussed
be,
this.
cut
Yeah, we
you
already
off.
discussed it. Well, this is not that.
All
big a
right.
deal.
Okay.
This one's
Really
not
good
about,
question
this is
now.
more conceptual.
All right.
So this one's not too big of a deal.
Jim,
Okay.
We've already discussed
Moving on.
923.
If we keep doing this every year, we're never gonna catch up to ourselves.
Well, I think this was once again a product of pandemic and yeah, I mean, I think it's just been very difficult for people to take, people aren't taking days. It's hard to take time off and that's, you know, that's been part of the issue.
Okay.
So it helps, but to your point is well taken. But we should probably stop discussing.
Yes.
any other comments about the vacation days?
No, we can't make any comment.
But-
We
No,
shouldn't be
that's-
making, we shouldn't be
already
making any
discussed
comments.
Okay,
I don't, okay, I don't, I don't have any comments, but it's generic enough. I don't know why we can't make
It's just in personnel.
it's right, which is done in exec.
Right,
So-
I shouldn't have discussed it in the first place.
The administrative substitute,
He's human.
We're
We
not
already
discussing-
discussed it.
we're not-
we did.
It's in
we can't
personnel.
discuss that
That's
here.
right.
Yep.
Okay, so we can move to, we did planning and construction, PR, public relations. Ms. Beal? Is that your
Be me.
committee?
See why we need
Miss-
those vacation days?
it's Miss
We need it.
Hayes.
I'm sorry?
Miss
It's
Hayes.
Miss
Alex.
Hayes, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I thought it was Miss Beal. Ms. Hayes, your
Fine.
PR.
Board of Education and Administration will discuss the 2022-2023 non-resident tuition fees for individuals wishing to attend Township of Ocean schools. Tuition fees for the following grade levels will be as follows: 9 through 12, 13.5, grades K through 8, 8.5, grades K through 4, 8.5, legal residents and enrolled Township of Ocean School K through 12. I guess you all can read that. It's in public content. Application fee will be waived and a 25% employee tuition discount will apply if signed up by the 1st of August. Do I hear a
There's
discussion?
Yeah, discussion.
Discussion
We have
for the-
reference to it as well.
activities. Mhm.
Okay,
Miss-
so I
Yes,
can-
Ms. Parlamas.
Jim, how much did it go up from last year?
The tuition rates we kept.
We kept them the same. Okay.
And how many people use these? Weren't we only at like 5 kids, 13 kids?
I'd have to get the number, but I mean, it's not a huge amount. We definitely have some tuition students. It's not a tremendous amount at this point.
Before we vote on this next week, can we
I'll get a number.
get
Yeah.
an actual number? Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments about our tuition out of district? Okay. So now we move to the old business portion of our
No, I
agenda.
would like
Nope,
to
we have-
11 too.
Oh,
we
we
have
want to
11
discuss
things.
11 too.
Yeah, I would like to discuss 11.
The
too.
activities calendar.
Yeah, so this is the calendar we put out every year, you know, the activities calendar. If you remember, a couple years ago, we did not produce it because of pandemic and just there weren't events happening, because it is an activities calendar. So if there weren't activities and events happening, we didn't produce it. This past year, for this year, we decided that we would do it. And so we wanted to discuss, do we want to continue to do it? I will tell you that this year, we still have hundreds of these calendars still remaining. I think people got used to us not, and usually that's atypical. They would typically be gone. I think in the year that we didn't do it, perhaps people got used to it and found other calendar options. So that is one thing to remember. It costs, last year we produced 4,500 copies.
Wow,
It cost, we have 900 copies still available.
wow.
That's after sending them all to one per district family, one per every employee, and one box of 100 went to the Oakhurst Post Office to be placed there, one box of 100 at Town Hall, and one box of 100 at the library. So, and then we had under 50 residents come to pick, and then we have them here. And we had under 50 residents this year come and pick them up here, which is much lower than we typically do. The biggest complaint, the biggest problem with this calendar is that it is obsolete, or it is inaccurate with activities almost from the time that it is printed, just because things change. We developed this calendar in the spring. We set the dates usually in June, and then it's printed over the summer, and then things change and events change and things get canceled. And so when people refer to it, obviously they're many of the dates are incorrect. The website is up to date typically and is much more up to date. I mean, the positives, obviously, it's, we have policies, same thing with staff, like we list staff and sometimes the staff changes from, so that's one of the big issues. We do spend, just so you're aware, the cost to print it was $3,887 and another almost $900 to mail it. It's also a significant amount of time to put it together, for our employees who put it together and then, have to get it bundled and everything to get it sent out. I mean, is there a sense right now that should we keep it? Should we continue to do it? Should we not do it? Have we reached that point?
Well, I think your number one comment that it's already obsolete by the time it comes out is pretty much a
I have always been
stunning
a-
comment.
yeah, I've always been a proponent of doing it, and my thought has changed this year. I think one of my suggestions would just be that, we always have the calendar as 1.1 for the board to see of what's going on during that week or something. If there could maybe be constantly on the board agenda, just because the people that want the calendar are people that come to board, some of the people are people that come to board meetings and want to be in the know. So maybe, I know we can put it on the website, but maybe if we also put it here, so it's kind of everywhere. And then maybe with a Facebook post at the beginning of the month or something with events for the month, that might also generate that group of people.
Sure.
Then I'm okay with, for the first time, saying,
No calendar.
Yeah.
That's a good idea to ask our PR person also to put it up on the Facebook page.
And
Yes,
I mean,
Ms. Palamas.
because I too was a proponent of it. I really did enjoy
Mhm.
having it on my refrigerator. But if this calendar that we get every week
Mhm.
could have all the activities listed on there, that would be very helpful.
Sure.
It would save us a lot of money.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, I think, obviously, I think that's very doable.
and maybe
And I
if
think
it's
the Facebook idea and is very good.
and maybe even because sometimes it's double work, right, for Ms. Amato to go into the board calendar and put things on. Maybe if she even just has an updated link weekly that brings us directly to the calendar on the
Sure.
website,
Yeah, that would
I'm
be
fine
good
with
too.
just clicking on that and going to the actual calendar with everything too.
Sure.
Might make Ms. Amato a little happy too, having one less.
Believe me, I want to make Ms. Model. happy.
Absolutely.
And I know she'll be happy, her and Ms. Anicelli, if we say no to this calendar.
It's a lot of work.
It is a lot,
And-
sure it
And,
is.
and Ms. Amato and some of the other support staff here are the primary people who do it. And they are, and I will tell you, they would be happy to continue it.
Right.
They would be happy to continue it if that's the wish. But I also think that they do feel a certain level of frustration when they do that work. And then they feel calls throughout the year, well, why isn't this date right? Why isn't this date right? Well, because it's
They change.
a document that's created months in advance and things change, things
Right.
change, so.
Mr. McCarthy?
As a parent who has a child who's like brand new to the district, I'm pretty sure I was very recently handed one of these. And I
grab them right in the
Yeah.
I
they
think
are
the
in the back.
statement was, if they ever stop making these, you're never gonna be able to get all of these really important links that are here on the top of this. While it was handed to me, the person who handed it to me said that. I don't know. And so that's why I'm just trying to make sure if you could just scan it and like look and see whatever those links are, we can ensure that they're included somewhere. It's like something for
The
new
nice thing in
parents.
A hard copy thing is that the links don't work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whatever
I'm
links we're
aware.
talking about, I'm not
I'm
sure.
aware. Yeah, like I know that you can't click it on a hard copy.
I mean, I saw
piece of-
somebody-
I'm very aware of that. Yes.
Doing this, and it's
But
just-
apparently they're like, apparently there's like this pertinent step-by-step information on the front. I'll pull it up and look at it, but I just am saying,
A lot of the
all I'm saying,
information
I don't
that we
need a
have is
specific, I'm just saying whatever that
on
is.
the website.
I'm just saying, let's just not neglect it. Yeah, that's the only thing. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I understand your point, Mr. McCarthy,
Yeah.
because for each building, we've got staff members listed, we've
I
got
think that's what it
you
might
know,
be. Maybe it's not links.
contact information, but all of that is now on our website as well.
Wonderful.
But if you want to, of course, take a calendar and point out some things that maybe are not listed on the website that are important.
Yeah, I will. Do my due
Ms.
diligence.
Cordero?
Could we, to Mr. McCarthy's point.
Can't hear you.
Is it
Sorry.
possible to
She can't hear you.
take is it possible to take some of that other information and work with the town and get it on the ocean calendar? There's a lot of kind of dead space on that calendar.
Good
Maybe
idea.
they can.
We
add
can,
it.
we can certainly speak to them about
I don't
that,
know,
sure.
maybe, you know, maybe if we have to pay the differential, I don't know.
An event in town.
I'm
Ms.
sure.
Hayes, you had a question or a comment?
Just real quickly, and I know Dr. Stefanowitz loves to send everyone to our web pages calendar, which is great. But it only allows 3 things per date. So while I am in huge favor of nixing this antiquated paper thing for expense and killing trees, and nobody uses paper calendars anymore, in my opinion, it would be wonderful if we could revamp the online calendar, because right now, for example, for June 6th, I see Wanamassa P. Well, I don't know what that means unless I click on it. And it says OTHS senior something. So I think if we had a calendar that was a little bit more descriptive on our page, while I love the calendar, Dr. Stefanowitz, that we have one.
No.
I can't tell what any, and it says on the 13th, it says presentation / I don't know what that means. So unless you click on these things, and then it says +2, +6. So you can't have more than 3 activities on our calendar. So
can
perhaps
click
the
on the
powers that be could find a much better online calendar.
Well, the calendar, I believe, is part of the template of our website, but we could contact the
I know, but there's
our website folks and ask
there's
them
8,000 templates we could
if
probably.
there's other,
I'm sure there's a better template.
well, we went through a whole series of processes to pick this, we don't just change templates with the wind, so we will,
Really
we can talk, we can certainly ask them if they can open it up to so that we can, or on, have more ability to put, more, all the events that need to go up there.
It may just be a matter of making it easier to choose how you view it, because if you view weekly, for example, you can see more. If you view daily, so it defaults to the month.
Or color coordinated by school.
Yeah,
I think we
Making
said
it,
that.
I think there's easy things we can do without.
Like, I don't, if I was
Well, with all the time that Mrs. Mono won't have doing the calendar, she can look into all these things
Oh,
and
no.
try to improve upon it. So I think all those things are certainly things that we can look at.
That they're all workable.
Yeah.
Any other comments on the activities calendar?
By the way, just so you know, she'll still meet with all of the groups and organize all these dates, and that will all still happen, but it'll just, the focus will be on the online calendar.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Amato, thank you. We'll move to old business. Does anyone on the board have old business to discuss? I do. If you've ridden past Ocean Township High School, you've seen the wonderful display of flags that were put out by the class of 2024. Ms. Minot was helpful, instrumental in doing that. And I know that many donations, including from Mr. DeLomo, we thank you very much for helping that, helping get better flags. When we started this activity, the flags were kind of, they would blow away. This year, they were able to purchase flags that are still on display. So if you get a chance to go past that for Memorial Day, that was a wonderful display. And perhaps we can thank Mr. Stupi for his donation by sending a note from the board.
We usually, when we approve, we usually send a letter.
Send
out
out a letter out of
Yeah.
thanks. All right, thank you very much. Anybody else have old
Mrs.
business?
Hayes had.
Ms. Hayes.
Had her hand up.
I had a couple questions. Since I wasn't in exec, I don't know if this would have come up. The job postings at the front of our agenda, I probably bring it up every other meeting. There's no hyperlinks to the Apply track for our summer session jobs. Is there a reason why we're only asking people to send a physical email and their resume? And why people can't apply online?
For internal postings, typically, I think the way we don't, I don't believe we use AppleTrack, and I think it's actually, it might be dictated through our contract, that it's done through an email to me in my office and through personnel.
But anybody can apply for a summer teaching job, right? It's not just.
I
you.
think initially we only do it internally, and then
So
if we
too.
don't find people, then we post it outside.
Okay, so how do we how are we right now with filling positions for summer?
I think we did some recommendations today for many of the positions, and then we'll have more for next week.
Many.
But I mean, like, and you think we're good, or we are gonna be short?
Well, no, we're, you know, I think there are some positions that, you know, that we're still gonna need. There's still some positions we're gonna need, but I think in many of the areas, we're doing okay.
Okay, and that brings me to my second of three questions. Speaking of summer, how do parents who feel their children should be in the summer program or need extra help this summer, what do they do? How do they find out more information?
I would contact the school, contact your guidance counselor, contact the principal. I think that would be the best way to approach it.
But it's already gone out, like.
As far as invitations to summer program,
Mhm.
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And then my third question is, traffic situation at the middle school is crazy. If you're a parent dropping off or picking up, especially in the morning, you're waiting 12 minutes to turn. What's the status of getting a police officer or somebody there to help regulate this? I'm not speaking alone when I say this. It's a nightmare in the morning, and it's frankly almost dangerous the way people are letting people come in and, oh, no, you go. You've been waiting 7 minutes, you go. Something's gonna happen.
You know, I remember earlier in the year, there were some issues. I know that I think OTPD sent when they had people available over there to try to alleviate the situation. Honestly, this is the first I've heard it, that it's been a significant problem as of late. I can check with Mr. Amato and OTPT tomorrow. You're talking about the middle school, right?
Yeah.
I'll check with them tomorrow to see.
Are there any other
If they can provide us.
parents on the board that have encountered this?
It is a
Okay.
lengthy.
Yeah,
wait.
it's a nightmare.
Okay,
I-
I'll call over there to see if they can, I mean, I know when he's there and able, sometimes our class 3 officer has tried to assist with traffic. That's not really what they're supposed to be doing, but sometimes they've helped in that regard. But I'll check with Chief Sorrentino tomorrow to see if they can provide any assistance for the for the next week or for the remainder.
You're making that left out of there in the morning. It's tough.
Oh, you mean coming out of the
Coming out of the
the front
school.
of the school to make the left?
You need to just.
I just make a bunch of
That's
rights.
I do the right. and go
And
around.
about 3 hours later, I get home, but.
Exactly. And it probably this month is just the worst also because of, more people are here, but okay.
Yeah,
Wrongs don't make a right, but 3 rights make a left.
exactly. I will check with OTPD tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Let's move to the next public comment session.
Wait, I thought we had
Wait, I'm sorry, I forgot new business. New business. Yes,
So the
Mr.
reason I knew we had
McCarthy.
new business, I've been waiting to talk.
Oh, sorry.
No, so, okay. We didn't get a security committee update, but I think that that's for probably good reason, because there's probably some things that we don't want to discuss at a meeting. But I do just want to comment, and I'm not trying to steal your thunder, Jim, but I'm trying to kind of like applaud you. I think that you have really jumped on security with our schools in response to what has happened. I appreciate you and the way that you've contacted the chief. And I think that the chief also deserves some recognition. Chief Sorrentino has sourced officers to our schools and not only done so in terms of like patrolling, but in terms of stationing permanent personnel. And I am very thankful for you doing that and for him doing that. And I think it's an amazing thing. And I hope that some of the parents in this district know that after my discussion with you this morning about what happened in the security committee meeting yesterday, I hope that they're aware that we are working very hard to make sure that our children are safe in these schools. And it makes me very happy. That's it as a parent.
Thank you. I mean, I do just want to add though, that yes, that was good. And OTPD really did a great job, finding personnel to help us out in that regard. But I also want to point out though, that in the last week or two, there's been a lot of discussions internally about some things that we can improve upon, some things that need to be addressed. Particularly as it relates to, just some of our entrances and exits and things like that have come to our attention that we definitely have to work on. And so, I mean, obviously, when these things happen, it's tragic. But it makes us all reflect on our own practices, and this is something we think about every day. But I think we can, we just always have to guard against becoming complacent and becoming too laxed in what we do. And I think sometimes that does happen. And so these are reminders that we can't afford to do that, right? So so we were able, to respond as it relates to the Class 3 officers, and at the same time, our staff have pointed out some things to our building administrators that they think would be great ways to improve what we do. So we're hearing that and listening to that. I did reach out. I will say, I mentioned this yesterday, but we've been talking about. I have had conversations with Jeff Gale, who oversees school security for the Department of Homeland Security at the state. And we are looking to bring them in to do an audit for us in the summer to really go through our procedures and practices. We are also meeting with Tom Rue and who oversees OEM here in town. And we talked about this yesterday and discussing a number of things that we're going to be talking about this summer. So not only are we looking at it from the state's perspective, Homeland Security, but also locally. And what's great about OEM is that it's not just police, it's EMS, it's all first responders at the table, talking about ways that we can improve what we do. So I think our relationship with OTPD has always been excellent. And that's critical. That relationship is critical because I think we can see when that communication isn't happening that it can be very problematic, right? So it's good, and we have work to do. We still, unfortunately, with each incident comes new things that we have to look at and examine, and so that's what we're doing now.
And Mr. Bosman is, if you looked at the PD notes, he's going for emergency training also, and it'll be interesting to see what the update that we receive for the latest training. Yes, Ms. McGovern.
I was just gonna say, can we maybe put it in notes somewhere, or maybe Mr. McCarthy, you can remember this, that maybe after a security meeting that we can have an update in exec.
Sure.
Maybe you can just get with Mr. Weinstein
We can do
after.
it. We can do something next week. We can give it.
Who was that?
I'm sure Ms. Polanis would be happy to provide an update.
Yeah. I will be happy to provide an update.
Thank you, thank you. Ms. Hayes, you have a comment?
Who was at this security meeting? When is the next one? And who attends?
It's made up of administrators, staff, representatives from OTPD, OEM. There are parents. There were not any parents there yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, but there were some that were invited, but they did not attend. Our own district security. And we usually meet.
Board
twice a
Security
year.
Committee.
I'm sorry.
The board
Oh,
security
yeah, we have
committee,
two representatives from the board, and we usually meet twice a year.
Denise and John.
So probably our next meeting would be in the fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the fall.
Aren't we bound to have parent stakeholders at these meetings? Isn't there some rules because we're getting federal money and stuff like that, and some of our ESSER and Title I and II, that we have all stakeholders present at these meetings?
Well,
Like if we don't
this
have
has
parents
nothing to
there,
do with
should we
ESSER 1 and
reschedule?
2. So, I mean, bound, I don't know about bound, but certainly we'd like to have parents. We've invited parents, but unfortunately they did not attend. At the beginning of each year, we will often, once again, for all of our committees, send out documents that say, Are you interested, parents, we're interested in finding people for our district security committee. We're interested in finding people for our wellness committee. We're interested, we've done that from time to time. So I think we can certainly do that again at the beginning of next school year before we meet again.
But we asked parents to go to yesterday's meeting.
I believe so. I believe I have my email list has
Not just any parents.
Not all parents.
yeah, no, it's not all parents. It's
I
those
know.
people-
Yeah. Select, I just find it weird that not one parent went.
Not one parent came to
We- we-
wellness. Oh, one parent came to wellness, but we have 3 people that sit on there and only 1 came. They can't always make it.
I know, but there's 9 of us and there's 3,000 parents. That's apples and oranges. I hope we would make it a concerted effort.
Alice, we didn't pull from the 3,000 parent pool for this to request attendance.
Not for this meeting.
I know, but
But
we
in the
have a
past,
list.
Like I said,
we
in
have
the
a
past,
list.
the beginning of the year, often we might say, look, we're looking for members for this committee, we're looking for parent representatives for certain committees. And often I'll speak to PTA presidents and say, hey, we're looking for representatives. Can you help us out with some names, things like that? And that's how we've gotten many of our parents who are part of.
From
of our
PTA?
committees. Yeah.
I just think it's after Uvalde to not have a larger stakeholder presence was a missed opportunity.
I think no, I'm not responding to that, but if it would make you feel better, Alex, I know of a lot of discussions between parents and Jim directly. There are parents that are making their opinions heard to you.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
heard from.
Yeah, but they're not sitting in a room with cops and our security people either. Like it would have been yesterday.
I've probably heard from a handful of people.
A handful?
Yeah.
How many parents are on the committee that we invited? Just a ballpark.
Probably, 2 or 3. It's not, I mean, the committee
To
is, 10,
Right, I
10,
was
12
just-
people.
If parents who sign up are consistently not coming, maybe we should try to have 5 and then that way we'll have.
Yeah, I mean, once again, we have a
I don't
couple
know.
meetings a year, so it's not like you say, if we're meeting every month and we say, okay, these people haven't shown up for 5 months,
Right.
it's twice a year.
Just
So,
thinking if we have,
yeah, we can.
if we have 5, maybe we get 2.
Sure.
Sort of thing.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So the committee can take that up,
Yeah.
perhaps expanding the number
Like
of
I said,
invites to
we will
parents.
work to solicit, I think, new parent involvement for next school year.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments on the new business, Mr. McCarthy. Our closing items include the second of public comment. Would anyone from the public like to comment on any item at this time? Mr. DeLomo?
Gino DeLonghi, 45 Wickapecco Drive. So a couple of questions I have is, as a school district, have we adopted any policy or procedures for school events, after school events, and or assemblies for talent show, et cetera, throughout the district for having any type of security while the events are going on? Police presence, security for our entrances to the doors.
We have policy. I don't believe there's anything formally in policy. We do have security presence at most of our events. Not necessarily police presence, but certainly either in, our in-district security force or in many cases, we do have like a lot of our athletic events and things like that, there certainly is more of a police presence.
Well,
I don't know that we've traditionally, at an elementary concert had
Right.
police presence, but we often have our own securities.
Well, I'll give you an example of why I'm asking the question. So on Friday, Memorial Day weekend, there was a talent show at the junior high.
Mhm.
And my daughter was in that talent show, of course, and I went and I attended. And as I'm walking up to the doors are open with the door stoppers. There's no security. There's no adult supervision. You can come and go as you please. So as I walk into the vestibule, there's no security. no adult supervision. As I walk past the vestibule to the cafeteria area where the intermediate school kids are collecting tickets and money to get into the talent show, they're there and that's it. So I'm thinking to myself, we just had this really terrible incident happen within a week or two. And now I'm coming to this event with all these people. So I said, maybe when I walk in the cafeteria, there may be a presence. There's nothing. And I don't know who ran the talent show or who was in charge, but they weren't there because they were behind the stage or helping the kids or getting them ready. So with all that said, we have this terrible event that happened with other events following with absolutely no security, with a gathering of not only students, but parents, grandparents, and everybody coming out to see their kids. So I took it upon myself to call the chief and let him know that I'm at an event with no security. So I'm going to shut the doors. My daughter's acting in 5-6 acts. I'm going to sit outside until you send a squad car over to get me security. So he immediately responded and sent the car over. The only reason why I'm bringing this up with everything going on and with incidents like this, obviously, it ignites people that are mentally disturbed, and there's been more shootings, and they're thankfully not little kids, and it shouldn't be anybody, but they're out there and they're happening more often. So to have a gathering with no security, I think is unacceptable. And I think maybe, and I'm not blaming the board or saying someone did something wrong, but someone dropped the ball. And anytime there's a gathering or an event of anything going on in our school district, we should have security. We need to have somebody there to protect the people that are coming to the event, and most importantly, the students. So that was my one comment about security, and I'd like to see if we do have. I know we only have a couple weeks left of school, but moving forward, and while you guys meet throughout the summer and start to put things into place for next year, this is something that we really need to look at. I'm not sure. I know everything comes down to budget and how much it is. But when it comes to the safety of our kids, there's no price tag. And if we need to raise money, we'll find a way to do it. Okay, so that was the one issue that I had. The other issue I have, well, not an issue, just comments. The one comment about the building and selling the building. The best thing you could probably do here is to lease out the building, not sell it. Okay, selling the building, I think, is a big mistake. I think leasing the building will get you the revenue that you need to help offset whatever it is that we need money for. Okay, this is a gigantic piece of property, and there's a lot of things that can happen here. And with our community changing daily, not yearly, daily. Okay, and with the influx of people coming into our community, this is a ripe piece of property for many things to happen. And whether you buy it or sell it or lease it, the people are going to come. And as far as realtors making offers, realtors make offers every day that they can't fulfill. It happens every single day because I see it happening to my next door neighbor. I see it happening to my neighbor around the block. I can get you $5 million for your house and you list it with me, and the house is still for sale and there's no buyers. Okay, so I think leasing the property is probably the best way to go, but that's not my decision for you guys to talk about and decide. But I think that the revenue that you can get from leasing long-term would be much more effective than selling the property. Okay, and to Mr. McCarthy's comment, yes, you can lease the building and have whoever leases it do the repairs. It could be part of the deal. You can just say, hey, we'll do a land lease on the land and the building. You want to put up a new building, put up a new building, and let them do the repairs to the building rather than the board. Okay. So thank you for that. The other thing I wanted to bring up, which I'm sure you guys are aware. If you're not aware, I'm going to make you aware. Okay. We have serious issues at the high school. We have serious discipline issues at the high school. I know the year's ending. I know everybody was locked down. I know this is the first full year of everybody coming to school without masks and not Zooming and everything else. But the disrespect level that we have happening in that high school towards teachers is completely unacceptable. When you have students telling teachers to go F themselves, suck my you-know-what, who do you think you are? Don't talk to me. When you have students complaining that they can't get through the hallways in the morning And when they say, excuse me, they're told the same thing. And when you have teachers that are not reporting the incidents anymore because nothing's happening, they've given up. They've thrown their hands in the air. And I know this factually. This is facts that I'm telling you. It's not hearsay. This is coming directly from teachers in that school, students that go to that school that I talk to, and they tell me, listen, it's a zoo. And I think moving forward for next year, the problem is, and the other thing that I was told, and and this really bothers me, is that you have detention for these students, and sometimes the detention is canceled. Why would that even happen? Why would you cancel detention for somebody that deserves to have detention for doing something wrong? The students do not respect, what happens is behavior becomes contagious. And when you have people acting out like this, and you have people telling teachers to go F themselves and not respecting their teachers that are there, how would you feel if you were a teacher driving to work every day saying, I can't believe I have to go to work. The students tell me off every day. That's terrible. That's a terrible way to go to work every day, especially when we rely on these teachers to teach our kids. Not acceptable. So if the board and the administration doesn't know firsthand what's going on, or maybe you do, or maybe they're not doing their job, maybe, I don't know, maybe make a vote, make a motion on the floor that board members spend some time in the school to see what happens, but go during the times where things happen, where people are saying they're having a hard time. The morning time, okay, on your way in, throughout the day, there's all kinds of flare-ups, and the congregating that goes on in the hallways for the students to get through, and they can't get through. Teachers can't even control them because they tell them whatever they want to tell them. That's a problem. And I think it needs to be addressed. I know we only have a little time left, but I think that whoever's running the discipline in that school is not doing a good job. It's a terrible job. Okay. And there's more and more parents that are pulling their kids from our district. Okay. And sending them to private school. That's a bigger problem. They're paying taxes to live here, to go to our school. This is a great place. I grew up here. I love the school district here. Okay, I have a daughter in 5th grade and a daughter in 3rd grade, that are going to move up, and eventually they're going to go to the high school. If the high school's this bad, by the time they get there, they're not going to our high school. I'm going to have to send them somewhere else. But I hope that we can get a handle on this and try to help these teachers teach. That's why they're coming. They're coming to teach. They're not coming to get abused verbally and sometimes physically. Okay, it can't happen. So thank you for listening to that. Okay. The last thing I want to mention is I have a question, because the last meeting we were talking about the K-2 curriculum, and that we were going to find out an answer on whether we can opt out of K-2 only and continue with the rest of the new curriculum that they want to introduce to the school. Do we have an answer for that?
When you say we, do you mean individually as parents or?
No,
For
as
the
a district. Because the district has, I think the district has the option, I believe, of opting out of not introducing the K-2 curriculum if they don't want to. It's up to them.
I don't believe that's.
I think
At
that our
this time.
funding is tied to following that curriculum. I'm not sure. Ms. Weldon may be on the
Yeah, I've
line,
not
but
been told that
Okay.
at this
yeah,
time.
that we
Well,
don't
I'm not
have the
sure.
option
I don't know what
to.
the answer is to that. That's why I'm bringing that up again. So can we find that out?
It certainly will follow up with Ms. Weldon, but again, we have the discretion of presenting it the way our district feels is best for our students, not necessarily delving in depth into areas that might be too sensitive, but I believe we do have to follow it to receive our funding. But I'll find out for sure. We'll follow up with Ms. Weldon. Anything else, Mr. DeLamo? Any other comments?
One last comment is the traffic situation is a nightmare. I drop off my daughter every morning at the intermediate school, and I do make a left-hand turn coming out of that driveway, and it's very dangerous. That's it.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
comments. Thank you. Anyone else in the public? Yes, Lisa? Yes, please. Just state your name and address, please.
Sure. Aliza Zion, 21 Overhill Road. Sorry, I know it's late and we're all tired.
No.
I probably could have came at like item 14 because that's pretty much what I'm concerned about. I speak for myself and for also other parents in the district that I've actually spoken to. I have a 4.5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old who are going to be joining Ocean Township this year. And, in light of what, recent events and just what's been happening over the years, with Uvalde, safety is my main concern right now for my kids. I want to feel comfortable. I want them to feel comfortable. So I've expressed that. I've actually spoken to Senator Gopal as well. And, he's on board. I know many people who have spoken to him. I know he's on board with everything, but in order for me to even discuss it with other parents or to even discuss it with him, I really truly want to understand what the current process is. What do we have in place for safety? What do we have in place for mental health concerns for these students? I think it's also ways where we can involve the parents because I think that it starts at home. But obviously that's not a conversation to start today, but I need to find out, how do I get the information? Where can I find out? I mean, you have a securities committee that you just met with. Obviously that information is not for public, but how do I find out what is in place? What other things do we plan on implementing moving forward? And I just don't want this to be another one of those situations where it's an issue happens, we talk about it, we make some minor changes, and then we kind of brush it under the rug and hope that nothing happens in the future. And then something else happens and then we kind of bring it up again and there's emotions involved. So I have personally committed at my house, to my husband, to my kids, to all of my friends to ensure that the safety is our #1 concern, just in line with education. And so I'm willing to do whatever it takes, partner with the board if necessary, with the parents, whatever necessary to do moving forward. But I just want to have a better understanding of what the current process is for our schools, in the elementary school, in the middle school, and in the high school. So if the board can maybe inform me on how to gain that information, if I have to come to another meeting or whatever else, I'm more than committed to do so.
Dr. Sefrango?
Just contact me. I'd be happy to have a conversation with you.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your
Sure.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Mrs. Conway, is there anyone at home who would like to make a public comment on any item?
Yes, Vice President Gilman. The first commenter is Jody Madigan. Please go ahead.
It's Ms. Madigan.
Please go ahead.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Jody Madigan and I live at 207 Elmwood Road here in Oakhurst. I also wanted to comment about the lack of security at after-school events. So, as a parent, I was obviously extremely affected by the event in Uvalde. We have spoken to our children about it. 2 nights later, we attended the band concert at the intermediate school, and right away, my husband and I both commented on, I cannot believe there's not even a school security guard here. It just, as a parent, it made me feel like, okay, well, we're going through the motions during school, but after school, whatever. And I'd like to think that we are doing a good job as a district with security, but less than 48 hours later, for there to be a school event with parents, many people, and there not even be a school security officer was just shocking to, I think, so many of us there. I don't know. And then also, yes, the traffic situation at the intermediate school in the morning is horrific. I do have to say, I feel that some of that is caused by parents not following the system. It just becomes like a free-for-all for like where to let your child out, which is dangerous. It just, holds up the line even more. But it's more about like the after school security issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. Any other commenters, Ms. Conway?
Yes, Mr. Paul Mayerowitz, please go ahead. Please go ahead, Mr. Mayerowitz.
Paul Mayerowitz, 14 Magnolia Court, Ocean Township. I wanted to clarify a statement in the superintendent's report. He referred to a county report relative to bias in the school districts of Monmouth County. Did he say that we had the least number of bias cases in the county or the most number of bias cases in the county?
Yes, certainly.
I don't know if I could, if the best way to say it is least or most, Mr. Marowitz, but from what it was communicated to me was that Ocean Township, and I'm not speaking of the school district, I'm speaking of the township, of course, of which the school district is a part, is that we are, if not, most wasn't the word used when it was presented to me, but it basically like leads the way, and which in case might be translated to most, right? But we're certainly one of the highest areas where these incidents are occurring. That's what was communicated by OTPD.
Might I suggest that a meeting with the PD and appropriate members of the administration meet to see what steps could be taken to reduce those cases?
Certainly, but it certainly goes beyond the school district, obviously, right? So
yes,
we have brought in at our high school people from prosecutor's office to discuss bias incidents and bias crimes. So you know, we certainly have been committed to that effort, but we can certainly discuss more things. I think that's part of the Safe Place program that we're discussing of increasing ways to prevent these things from happening.
Are bias situations covered by the HIB report?
Well, a HIB incident.
The victim.
A HIB incident is could be related to a particular bias based on a protected class, race, religion, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender. So yes, I mean, it certainly could be, but that's only if it's directed towards students. That would not include anything directed towards adults, would not be in the HIB report.
Are there statistics available on a countywide basis by school district so that we know where we rank relative to the HIP reports? To ascertain whether or not we really have a problem or not in the school district?
I don't know of a county. I mean, it's all relative, obviously, right? Because it's not number of incidents. Obviously, it depends on the size of your school, that kind of thing, size of your district. I don't know of any, certainly there's no ranking. I don't know of any list that's produced by the county. I mean, the State Department of Education does yearly put out statewide statistics. I don't know of anything that's broken down by county or by district. I mean, every year with some investigation, if you're looking for a project, Paul, every twice a year, each district has to report on the number of bias or HIB investigations and HIB incidents that occur and the nature of those incidents. So we do that every January, we do it every July. And so every district has to do that. So, and that's got to be done at a public Board of Education meeting. So it's that information's available. I just don't know that it's available in white and one, nice, clean piece of paper that lists it all in one place.
Okay. At the last board meeting, I think we all agreed that the members of the Board of Education need to understand what's in Robert's Rules of Order. And you've taken steps to ensure that the board members do understand that. Listening to tonight's meeting, it appears that there are some board members who really don't understand the Open Public Meeting Act. I'm concerned about the discussion that we had on real estate. A discussion on appraisal values and what this property might bring do not work in our favor. That information should be kept confidential to the board and not discussed at a public venue. And if you check the Open Public Meeting Act, my reading of it my interpretation of the Open Public Meeting Act will allow you to keep those discussions confidential. Any information that we can provide to potential bidders as to the value of this property or as to what members of the board think this property is worth works against us, and we should keep those comments confidential. Just some other quick questions. We're trying to establish an esports program at a cost of what I heard was probably a little over $35,000. How many students do we anticipate that this program will be applicable to?
That's to be determined. It's, probably
I could
somewhere
jump in.
between. Okay, go ahead, Kyle.
So the equipment would outfit an entire classroom that would be used for multiple courses throughout the day. And then an esports team could be comprised of, I think, 10 players that play, but of course you could have a team larger than that, and then students could cycle in to play. I'm not an expert in the sport, in esports, but I believe that's how it functions.
Yeah, it is similar to an athletic team in a way, right? So you have, you could have 40 members on the team and, at various times, only 10 to 15 are participating at a time, but it's about that.
If I
I think the
understand,
important, sorry.
no, it's fine.
The important part is the equipment that we would purchase would outfit a classroom that would expand learning opportunities both in the classroom and in extracurricular endeavors.
So that the lab that we're setting up is essentially also an extension of a computer lab or a computer learning facility.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
In 7.2 tonight, which was on professional legal services, there was a footnote that said political contribution disclosure form was filed. What is that about? And what did those legal firms disclose, especially the one that won the bid or won the contract?
Well, first, these aren't new bids or new contracts. This is just reapproval of existing folks. We did not RFP these for this year. I'd have to go back and look at it, Mr. Marowitz. I don't have an answer to that question at this point.
I mean, I think you understand why I'd like to know what the political disclosure is. And the other last thing.
I believe it has to do with if they've ever contributed to any political
Right.
organizations or campaigns or anything like that. But I will double check that.
It's a required question according to state law that you disclose that, just as we have to disclose any investments that we might have when we become board members, along with our income. So it is just a requirement.
No, I'm familiar with that. It's just a question as to what was on those disclosure forms. One last thing, this related to public relations, which I just discovered tonight. There is an Ocean Township Board of Education Facebook page. I don't know who's responsible for it. I don't know what it's intended for, but the last post, according to what I saw today, was July 18, 2020. So if we have a Facebook page out there, we need to evaluate whether we want to keep it. And if we do want to keep it, how we're going to use it for the future. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any other comments from the public on
No.
any item?
No, there are no further comments, Vice President Gilman.
Well, thank you so much, Mrs. Conway, for helping me to navigate through the evening.
Excellent job, Mrs. Gilman.
Thank you. Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Second.
Who was
Meeting
that?
over.